And we are live. It is Monday, April the 6th, 2020. It is 8:09 p.m. Eastern, but only 5:09 p.m. Pacific time on the West Coast, which is the best coast. That's right, folks. 2 nights in a row, we have California residents. However, whoops, I got my show running in the background. Let's get rid of that. But it is a very special Canucks with Guitars because I have a very special co-host, fellow Canuck with Guitars, Mr. Pete Thorn in the house. Thanks for doing this, buddy.
Thanks for having me, man. We've been talking about it for a while.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, well, very much welcome. We got a bunch of people joining in and they know how it works. I do a roll call to start off the show. So if you want to get a shout out, folks, you know, you want to get your name heard, you got to say hi at least. Let's see. Now, I know that I can't even scroll back. There's been so many people in the chat already. We've got Randy Crooks, Bent Rossum, Absolute Mayhem, my lovely sister Amanda, BV Ninja, Peter DeBad, Craig Tomlinson, Paul Ewing, Music Therapy Laz, Jack the Rabbit, Mike Rohde, Surfer B, Vandy Man, Scrolling, Craig Tomlinson, good to see you. Vandy Man again, Mike Rohde, George Bedard, good to see you. Knucklehead Zero, gotta love that name. Dana, New Jersey. Let's see here. Brax Stubblefield, good to see you, my Nashville buddy. Team Hit 73, the Feel Button. Crowbars here. Look out, Crowbars here. What's up, dog? Lovely Janice Lala, my knees hurt. Wow, it just scrolled ahead by about 100 here. Else got music, Six String Brian, and I'm going to say millions of others because already, man, Brendan B. Squared, which builds amazing cigar box guitars. Expect a demo out this week on a cigar box guitar from Brendan B. Squared.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Those are neat. I like those.
So how you been since yesterday?
Well, I just got here to the studio. I mean, it's like, I don't know about you guys, but I'm finding it like, it's just, you know, the once a week shop or whatever that I try and avoid to do as much as possible. But it's like just getting I had to go to 2 stores to get everything I needed. And then like you get everything, get home. And I'm like kind of a freak about like kind of disinfecting everything and then getting it all put away. And it's just like, by the time, I don't know. And besides that, and then just cleaning house and stuff, it's like, okay, it's 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
I burned the whole day. So yeah, I'm not accomplishing enough. I got to get here earlier tomorrow. That's what I think. So I got a bunch of stuff I want to do. So
I hear you.
I got an idea.
I went out today to try to get all my stuff done. And I wanted to pick up some more wine. Guess what? The liquor store, they decided to close just on Mondays. And I thought, hey,
that's a Canadian
there's 2 liquor stores in town. They must close one on Monday, one on Tuesday, right? No, both on Monday.
For everybody in the U.S., they don't know about those things that we deal with. But yeah, the provincial liquor store is a different, right? I don't deal with it anymore, but I did 30 years ago. We
finally do have some wine and beer at the Walmarts here.
Oh, do you?
I will say.
Oh.
Yeah, just Walmarts for some reason. Not the other grocery stores, but just Walmarts.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. When I was growing up, it was just the Alberta Provincial Liquor Store, and there was like not many of them. I mean, it was like on the south side of Edmonton, there was one that I can remember where you had to, you know, there was probably more, but that was the only one I was aware of. So yeah, you got to make special trips for your booze, and of course, booze is a lot more expensive up there. And, tax and stuff, but that's how they pay for that great healthcare.
Exactly. You know.
Yeah.
It's only $50 for a 2-4.
Exactly. Yeah. Smokes and beer, and it's very expensive.
I think last time I saw, a pack of smokes was $20.
Oh, wow. Isn't that something? I mean, I haven't. You know, I don't smoke, so it's like I haven't thought about that.
No, I switched to the vape box about 5 years ago, and I'm happy I did.
Oh, what's that? So your vapor, like, what's that like for taxation up there? Is it expensive?
Not bad. Basically just regular sales tax. No additional, at least at this time. So, you know, cost wise, once you buy the whole apparatus and stuff, I look at about the cost of about $20 a week.
Yeah.
As opposed to 3 to 4 packs of cigarettes a week, let alone the health benefits. Like I noticed within 2 weeks, my singing range. Oh my God.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Well, that's good. It's probably better, you know. It's like, geez. Can't believe, cigarettes. It's like now, it's like I mean, when I think about it, everybody used to smoke cigarettes, and now it's just like not really a
Yeah.
thing anymore, is it? Not as much anyway. I mean, it's just good. Somebody's asked, I got my police shirt on. Somebody's asking in the chat there, Daniel, my favorite Police song. And it's funny because I hadn't listened to the Police that much in a long, long time, but I went and listened to a bunch, and I was watching a great video. Have you ever seen that video with Jules Holland in the early 80s where he goes and interviews them?
Yes.
It's so great.
Oh,
And Andy Summers is kind of demoing his guitar rig for him out on some like outside at Montserrat or something. It's like, I love that video. If you've never seen it and you're a Police fan, go check it out. Sting kind of shows, he's got an old Tascam or something 4-track, and he shows how writing the riff for, he's got a drum machine, and I think it's Message in a Bottle, and he kind of turns on the drum loop and then shows, okay, so I play a riff like this with the drum beat, and then I add a harmony to it, and then it's like, it's just such a great video.
I do agree. There we go.
Yeah.
Ticker going across the bottom here.
Oh yeah. My favorite Police song got to be, I don't know. There's so many good ones. I forget like how good, like.
Well, the Police are a lot like Zeppelin. They have a different song for different moods.
That's it. Because there's the punk rock sort of like Fallout or whatever, that song, and like the early stuff, and then going into like the whole like Bring on the Night is probably my favorite, actually, because it's so amazing. But
Teammates mentioned one of my faves, Invisible Sun,
absolutely. And he plays that in the Teammates. If you haven't seen the video, go check out the video with Jules Holland, because he shows using I think he's got a Taurus pedals or something, and he shows how he wrote Invisible Sun, and with the and he's kind of going between the two bass notes on the Taurus pedals, and then he talks about how I don't know, it's a great video. Yeah, it just makes you want to, with simple tools, like how they wrote those great songs, and it's really great.
Welcome to everybody jumping in here. We've already got 97 people in here. I saw Lawrence Petross Design, the pedal guru himself.
Oh, cool. House. Awesome.
Six-Ring Brian, my brother from another mother, JJ's House of Jams, who always puts up with me every year for NAMM, houses me and feeds me, and
man.
Half the fun.
Let's see who else we got here. What are you guys talking about? This is cool. I've never done this stream. What's it called? StreamYard. Seems to work really well. This is terrific.
Yeah, and not resource heavy, which is good with the limited, the way they're limiting bandwidth for a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it seems to be really great. So I've never tried this. Really, really cool. Yeah, The Police in Montserrat, full documentary. That's it, with Jules Holland. And Jules Holland is kind of cocky, and he's a little bit of a prick, like in the whole thing. But I love him. He's great. I mean, he jams. They're obviously pals, and he like sits down, and at some point Sting says, "Stop being an idiot and just sit down and play the piano or something." And it's really.
Yeah, there's my.
And they just jam. Anyways.
We got all kinds of family jumping in. There's my cousin Doug, the Down and Back with Corn Doug. If you're into the sport of cornhole, check out that channel. He does weekly live shows and podcasts, and that's a sport that's growing like a son of a gun.
What's that?
The sport of cornhole, which used to be just a fun beanbag toss game. Now it's looking at possible Olympic consideration in the next few years.
Seriously?
Yeah. Wow. It's just blown up worldwide.
Wow.
Yeah, they're showing it on ESPN. It's crazy.
That's pretty interesting. What else we got here? Let's
see.
Hurt
asks, is it more difficult to do hammer-ons with super low action?
I don't think so. I don't think there's too much to do with super low action. Like too much that's more difficult to do with super low action. But I'm a low action fan because I'm just a wuss. So I'm I like lighter strings these days and as low as I can get it, generally speaking. But there is a thing about high action that's like, if you watch the video that I did with Tim Pierce and Michael Thompson, we go to Michael's house and studio, and we did a Tim and Pete show there. And Michael's so brilliant, but we got there and he said, I had this great idea, like, I thought I'm working on this solo for a song for a client in China, and he said, I thought maybe we could all have a stab at it, do a take, So like, oh great, I gotta play a solo with Tim Pierce and Michael Thompson. It's like one of those bad dreams where it's like, okay, no, they hand me the guitar. But actually, it was really fun. I felt like I did okay. And I learned a little bit. One thing that I took away from it was Michael's approach is he really likes to improv things like that, but he likes to start out with a phrase that he's got a great opening line, and then he goes from there. And I was like, oh, that's a really cool approach. Like, kind of have a great, plan out the first bar or two where it's really cool, and then see where you go after that. So I like that approach. But he handed me the guitar when it was my turn, and his guitar had action. I'm not kidding. It was like this high off the neck. And I was like, what the hell is this? And it was like this bad, like even more of that bad dream thing where you have to play a solo with Tim Pierce and Michael Thompson, and here's the guitar, and the action's this high. And it was like, wow. But I also learned in that instance that I kind of liked it from the aspect of, and this is what Michael said, he likes it because it fights him a little bit, and he plays slower and more deliberate.
Sure.
And I like that. And that, okay, this is obviously, I'm not going to go crazy here on this thing because it's like, it's not even my guitar and I'm not warmed up. And it's like, so I had to play deliberate and slow and melodic, and it kind of slows your vibrato down and all that. And that's what he said. He likes that. And I found that for me, if I play a guitar that's just not quite set up right. So I'm used, so if I've got one of my guitars and it's playing great one day, and then the weather changes and the back bows a little bit or something, or it goes the other way, actually, and the action feels a little higher than usual, that drives me crazy. If it's just like, oh god, I know I got to do a truss rate adjustment and adjust it a quarter turn, that drives me crazy. But a guitar with action that high, it's just like so far out now it's like, okay, now it's a different ball of wax here entirely. And that I'd rather do that, I think, than have a guitar that's just not quite right.
I hear you.
It's either going to be perfect or super screwed up.
Yep. Yeah. We've got a question from fellow Canuck with Guitars, and he's also co-hosted this show, Lando 27 Music out of the nation's capital. He says, awesome. Can you ask Pete? I always forget. Are Thornbuckers named after Pete or Ian Thornley?
Me. Not Thornley. That'd be the Thornley Bucker.
Love it.
Yeah, Thorn and Thornley. We have a good time with that. Like, what's up with that? Like the two dudes with the, he's a great guy. I love that guy. And what a guitar player. Oh my God.
Hey, the guitar community, we still rally that if they decide to continue on with the full ensemble, you would be a great substitute.
Oh man, I would love to do it. But the fellow they've got is awesome. I went and saw them when they were here in LA, and he was great. I thought he was a great addition to the band. Actually, obviously it's a terrible situation they were put in, and it's awful. Poor, Brian. It's like just so it's a sad thing. But having said that, they carried on, and I thought it was great. I did. I thought it was a really good show. So, but I would love to play again with Ian. We did that number of years ago where he came down. It was actually his first kind of introduction to the surf folks. Because I actually I was Facebook friends with him, and I introduced him to John Suhr. And I remember emailing him. I remember the very first time I emailed him it was like a Facebook email, and I said, "Have you ever tried Suhr guitars?" And he was like, "Man, I can't find him where I am at, like where I live." Right. And he said, "I've always wanted to try him because I hear great things." And I was like, "Well," because I'd actually turned John Suhr onto the Albatross album. And he said, "Oh my God, I love," Suhr became a huge fan. He loved it. I said, "Was a big fan of yours, so I'm sure they'd, we'll hook you guys up and see if you can get a guitar in your hands and stuff." And it went from there. And then they became great friends. But he came down to the NAMM show 2014, I think it was. And I said to John, I said, I'd be happy to help him if he's coming down, and because there was going to be performances. Suhr used to do this factory party every year. They haven't done it for the last couple of years, but I said if you wanted to perform, I'd be happy to help put a band together, and so they just and learn some of his music or whatever, so that he can play. And John posed that idea to him, and he liked the idea, and so he got in touch with me and just said, "Well, what do you want to do?" And I was like, you're asking me like which songs we should play, and I was a big fan, of his,
Right.
and so I was like, "That's amazing." And he goes, "Yeah, man, I don't know this," and I remember making the suggestion to him, saying like, it's because he was kind of like, "I don't know what to do. It's all shredders and NAMM and all that." I said, "Yeah," and I said, "Everybody by the end of the day at NAMM is so tired of all the shredding guitar,
Right.
and the no song. It's just notes, 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 notes." And I said, just let's play some of your great songs, and that when you're up there singing and you're playing music, people are going to freak out,
Yeah.
And he was like, okay. And so I actually got to pick the tunes, and I remember like, thinking like, how the hell did I engineer this situation for myself where I get to play with because that was kind of my favorite record that year, and I was like, I can't believe I kind of got myself like sort of engineered this situation where I get to play with Ian and play some of his music. But he was such a pleasure. He came down, and so I got my friend John Button, who now plays bass in the Who, and my other friend Blair Cinta, a great drummer, and there was another fellow there that also played second guitar as well. I got everybody together, and we did one rehearsal, I think, and rehearsed the day before Ian came down, and just play. It was 4 or 5 tunes that we ended up picking. Blowing Wide Open, and that song, and Control, and a couple others. I played a little, so we did the rehearsal and got the songs together. I played a set before Ian, and then he got up and played with us. And really, honestly, he had none of his own gear that day.
Right.
He had a Sir PT100, an original one. That was the year we brought out the new version of the PT100, but he had an original, the old custom audio labeled one. So he used that with a 412, and he had a little pedal board with that Sir had put together for him with a tuner and a compressor and a delay and a couple other things on it. Overdrive and stuff, and a Sir Classic they gave him to use. None of the gear was his. I mean, nothing was his.
Right.
And so if you watch the show, it's on YouTube. If you search for 2014 Sir Party, Thornley and Thorn or something, it'll pop up, and you can hear it. It's one of my favorite things I've done in a long, long time. I mean, he played so well, and it sounds so good. The sound was not great. I mean, and he had been used to using in-ears for a number of years, and it was wedges. And I remember that you can see him at the beginning of Blowing Wide Open dialing in the pedals, and he's playing not on his guitar, not on his amp, nothing is his.
Right.
And he's playing brilliantly the entire time, just kind of dialing the pedals, and playing almost melodic, just flowing. And the band, I was so proud of John and Blair because they played this beautiful. Blair's a real singer-songwriter kind of drummer. I mean, he's a rocker too, but he's a great drummer for. He used to play with Alanis Morissette and Annie Lennox and all kinds of pieces. He just gets singer-songwriters, and he really listens to the singer. And there was this synergy that happened that night, and it's just a really, really beautiful. I was so happy with the performance, with the way that everybody did it. And when Ian comes up and he started singing right from the beginning, it was just, he's perfectly in tune and flawless singing and just right in the moment. And I loved the version that we played of Blowing Wide Open where Blair actually dropped out on the second verse. And it just comes way down to and Blair didn't do that in rehearsal. That's what he felt like doing. And Ian just went with it. And, here he is playing his songs with a bunch of guys that he's never even met. Like we just met that day.
Right.
I went off on a tangent there, but I was so happy with it. And I go watch it sometimes, and it's like, wow, that was a really, really good chemistry of all those players coming together and just, music's amazing, isn't it?
Sure.
It's just like
it is. And I want to give a shout out. We got Scotty from Pro Analog Devices in here. He said, Pete, big fan of you since your days with Chris.
Oh, cool. That's not funny to tie it up with Thornley. That's the first time I met Ian was in Toronto backstage. Can't remember the club, but it was 2007. Might have been the Phoenix, maybe. But I remember meeting Ian he came back and met us after a Cornell performance. One of my first. I mean, it was like the first month that I was out with Chris. And I remember meeting him, and I remember making an impression on me because he was so tall. So I remember meeting him, being the drummer. Our drummer, Jason Sutter, introduced me to him. Jason had subbed in the band Our Lady Peace And through that, he'd met, he knew of Big Rec and stuff. And because I actually kind of missed the boat on Big Rec early on. I was already living in the States.
Well, that's the thing, like they became so big in the last 5 years, and thankfully so, because they finally got the recognition that those of us in Canada have known about for 25 years.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like it's a great thing that, hopefully the Sir connection and stuff has helped with that a little bit, and that'll continue, and they can help foster, each other. And it's the beautiful thing about, it's a great thing about a company like Sir, because it gets such great respect. It's a well-respected brand, and it's not a big company, but it's not a small company, so they can help to get the word out about a band like Big Rec, and Big Rec can help, and Ian can help to get the word out about Sir, and it's this
exactly.
Nice thing.
I agree on that. Yeah, and I will say, Sir makes a damn fine guitar. I have had a chance to play your standard Pete Thorn, which there is a demo here on the channel, folks. Came out last month. Last time I was in Toronto, I got my hands on one over at Cosmo Music.
Oh, great.
And
I gotta see that. I haven't seen that yet.
I played the red finish one at NAMM this year.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I remember you had shown it off just before you went out on tour. You're like, hey, check this out, And I went to the Sir booth, and it was under lock. And I was like, I just want to play it for a minute. And then I did drop your name. I said, I'm your moderator in the live streams, and they let me play it for a minute. So,
that's good. I'm glad. It's a really great guitar. I think I've got the red one in here right now. Yeah, I've got a red one in here. My red one.
And welcome again to everybody joining in. We got currently 108 people watching. Nice.
That's great. Yeah, there's the red. I've got all three here. I've got the blue one in the other room, or all four. I've got the gold, the black, the red, and the blue in the other room. But looks cool in this light right now. There it is. Oh, it's sexy. Yeah, I love this.
And I will also shout out Absolute Mayhem, who was in the chat. He was my cameraman for that demo.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
awesome.
He and we went up to Solo Guitars in Toronto that day. They sell guitar kits as well as parts and accessories. And I was up there meeting Dave Riome from the YouTube channel Dave's World of Fun Stuff, which was cool. And then we figured Cosmo Music was 10 blocks or so down the street. So we're like, well, we might as well hit it. We already drove all the way to Toronto, which is a couple hours away. So why not?
Yeah. Yeah, Cosmo. God, they're great. I did a... probably one of the best attended clinics I've ever done was at Cosmo. I think we had 250, which was rad. It was really
I tried to get up there for that, but something had come up.
Yeah, I'd love to go back and do another one. Maybe after all this craziness is over, we can do things.
And I'm going to put the nugget in your ear now. 2021, see about doing Cosmo's Music Fest event. It's like their version of Sweetwater, right?
Yeah, I'd love to. I was supposed to go a couple times, and it just scheduling wise never worked out. But
well, we will definitely meet up there if you're there, because apparently I'm the only YouTuber that shoots content there.
Oh, yeah, it should go. Make a thing out of it. That'd be good. Yeah. I like this red one in particular because this one got a really dark fingerboard, which I love. I like when rosewood is as dark as possible.
Yeah, it's almost ebony-like.
Yeah, it's quite dark on this one, which is real cool. Yeah. I've thought about doing an ebony board actually on like just to have like another kind of version, but every time John kind of talks me out of it. It could be a cool thing, but it's got its own thing. I think ebony's great on Les Paul Custom and on a dark, powerful guitar. Like if you've got a Les Paul Custom with an all mahogany body, no maple top, ebony can be a real cool thing to bring out. But I was talking to John about, like, for instance, with single coils at all and stuff, he thinks it's way too bright and just almost take your head off, kind of like, which I find interesting, Like, okay,
BB Ninja mentions this. Pete was speaking with your singer, Jesse Smith, today. He's getting his YouTube channel up and running. Give him a sub.
Yeah, Jesse's great. And he's been doing some great lessons on, like he did one on Sing Like Robert Plant and how he approaches that. And I think it's a really good thing to check out because he's a really good singer, and Jesse's a really, really intelligent guy and a great performer, and He's got an interesting background, both playing in like it's interesting. It's almost like a lot of musicians I've met over the last couple of years have not only maybe been in bands and stuff, but maybe a bit of a musical theater background. And that's a entirely different thing. I find the musical theater thing. I find that kind of fascinating. Like anybody that's ever done a Broadway show or, something like that. And the level of like, you have to be really good. And like the pay's not great compared to rock tours with big rock artists and stuff like that. And yet you have to be on a very, 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 very high level. There's not a lot of rehearsing.
Right.
You just kind of learn the show and then you come in and do it. The guys that do I played a bit this past year with Mark Martel. This is the guy that sings so well, like he's a fellow Canadian as well, from Montreal originally, but sings so amazing in the style of Freddie Mercury, and he has this Ultimate Queen Celebration band. So I did a little bit of subbing with them this year,
right?
And man, that's an intense. The first show I did was a shorter one because it was a corporate. It was 13 songs, but it's still,
that's still a challenge right there.
At Killer Queen and Bohemian Rhapsody and all the tunes, and it's like to just walk into that. And then the next one we did was the full set, which was 22 songs.
Wow.
With Death on Two Legs and the whole 9 yards. It was just like, this is really hard. It was actually like one of the hardest things I've ever had to do was walk in and play 2 sets of Queen music on basically no rehearsal. But they just roll like that.
Sure.
And,
yeah. Ben Rossum has a question for you. Excuse me. Is that the EVH Wolfgang that Eddie gave you?
Oh, I'll get that. Let's use the guitar show and tell. So the story on this guitar is about 10 years ago. I met Ed and Matt Brook. And yeah, I expressed some interest in one of these guitars. And Matt said, well, him and Matt are the partners in, they're business partners in EVH gear. And one day Matt called and said, "Hey, your guitar's here." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I didn't even really know that was going to happen, but I got to drive up to 5150 and pick up this guitar. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Drove up there, and I've actually got some really cool photographs on the roof of 5150 on the roof of the studio with this guitar that I took back. That because Matt's a pretty good photographer, and he said, "Hey, you want to take some photos?" And I did some photos also with a Frankenstein up there too. So I'm on the roof of 5150 with a Frankenstein guitar, which is pretty rad.
Yeah. I'm thinking there's a very short list of folks that can say they've done that.
Yeah, it was amazing. I was like, "Is this really happening?" Like, but they're cool photos. I still have those. Let's see if I can find them actually.
Awesome. And I want to give a shout out. We got Sean Pierce Johnson in the chat here. Good to see you, Sean. He'll be on the show in a couple of weeks.
Cool.
Yeah.
He's a good dude. We've gotten to hang a little bit at various events.
Yeah.
Over the years. I'm going to see if I can find one of these photos so I can show you, because let me see. Let's search for kind of neat pictures.
Joe Hervey's asking about pickups, if they're great. I assume for Wolfgang, yes, Wolfgang pickups are great.
They are really cool. Yeah.
They have their own unique thing. Yeah.
And that designed those pickups, he was at Fender at the time. His name is Seiki. He's a cool dude. Oh, why can't I find these pictures? Let's see if I can have a look here.
Dang, Music Therapy Laz with the super chat. Someone's got to get this party started. LOL, Roxy sends her love, laying an egg right now. Nice. Well, thanks, Laz, and good luck with that, Roxy. Hey, Metalhead Hippie. Good to see you.
It's a good. I know a lot of these names. A lot of familiar names popping up, right?
Well, when you shout me out each week, I usually get that 3 to 5 folks that come over each week. So I do appreciate you for that. Us Canucks got to stick together.
That's
Speaking
awesome.
of which, did you ever get your Canucks with Guitars shirt?
Yes, I do have it. Unfortunately, I don't. I was thinking I should find that and like put it on for your show, but I don't know where it is, to be honest. I'll have to find it. It's somewhere in my t-shirt drawer, I'm sure.
Well, you know what? If you really want to be charitable, wear it on a Sunday show someday.
Okay, I'll find it.
There we go.
Especially
if Canada Day ever falls on a Sunday. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. I'll try and find it. It's got to be somewhere that.
Dang, Nick KB Music. He says, "Damn, two of the nicest YouTubers on the same stream." Thank you very much,
cool.
Nick.
We're good guys. We're pretty good guys.
Yeah. Fender Guru from New Zealand says, "Ben, tell Pete I bought my aux box because of his review."
Oh, cool. How do you like it? He can respond. What's your favorite cabs? That's a good question. Favorite cabs in there. I've got my aux and it's great. I love it. I've been using God, I'm such a slut when it comes to all this stuff, but I've been using my my IR thing of choice of late is the Get Good Drums plugin. They've got a new plugin called the Zilla Cabs, I think it's called. But anyway, it's an IR host. And you can load up, I load up the Celestion IRs in there and stuff, and it works really well. It's cool.
Music Therapy Laz is saying, "Pete, we met at NAMM last year. I have Stabismus, I didn't say it well, as well, at Friedman booth area. You were cool as always, man."
Oh, cool.
And Ben Rossum was saying, "Does Pete want to mention Britt's channel? She has great content." Well, even if Pete doesn't, I do. Britt has a great channel. Check it out.
She does have a cool channel. Yeah, she's got a really, really good channel. She just put up a video, actually, a band called Ghost that she really digs, and she did a cover. She's got the software where she can take the I'm not sure what the software is, but it'll take the lyrics out of a song.
Okay.
And so she'll do that, like, take the vocal, I should say, not the lyrics. She'll take the vocal out of a song, and then she'll go and replay all the the guitar parts and the bass and stuff, but use the original vocal.
Awesome.
and do like a cover of it.
I like it.
So,
and we got Fender Guru's response, and he responded in style. Thank you very much, buddy. He says the new V cabs he likes in the aux box.
Is that the V30? Is that what that is? Probably,
right? V-cabs.
All right, there we go. That old pictures, that same guitar was from 2010, but that's on the roof of 5150 with that guitar.
Awesome.
And there's with the Frankenstein. 10 years ago, back when I was young. No, I was old then. Wow.
It's all about perspective, I guess, right?
Who else we got in this chat here? What else we got? Britt plays all the parts. She's a really talented musician. She sure is. Yeah. She's getting better and better and better at drums. She's really slamming on drums now. Getting really consistent and just kind of, I don't know. I love watching her play drums. It makes me smile. So
we got 116 watching. Wow. I think that is officially a record on the channel. Awesome.
Oh, great.
Thank you, folks.
And
I'm supposed to also say hello to Britt and you from Caleb Rappaport from Nerd Halen. He and I were talking on the phone today, so he wanted to say hey.
That's awesome. Yeah, they met at a Green Day show.
He got into that Green Day show.
It was like that's right. It was a whiskey at it's a drag because Green Day was going to have a big tour, obviously, and that's not happening.
Yeah.
And when I think about all the tours that were going to go out, there was going to be that big Motley Crue reunion. That's not going to happen. Yeah.
Pearl Jam not only was touring but has a new album because they actually performed in Hamilton during Winter NAMM.
Oh yeah.
So I think they're the typical do a few warm up shows in Canada before hitting the US to tour.
Oh, okay. Got it. I see Ben uploaded he put if anybody's watching, go give Britt a view and a comment maybe on her YouTube video there. Ben in the chat put up the link, and that's nice. She'll appreciate that. So
And I think I missed a super chat, and I do apologize on that. Bent Ross was saying it was a $5 one from Carlos. Thank you, Carlos. 2 days of awesome streams, Pete. You're one of my favorites. Amazing videos from both gents. Got to get back to my Charvel to practice. Rock on,
That's
Carlos.
awesome.
And thank
do
you,
that
Ben,
tonight
for picking
too.
that up. See, you're not the only one that misses these once in a while, Pete.
Well, it's hard when you're answering questions. You get going on a thought. You know, you miss things. Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah.
For Cake, Tony's like, the chat's moving too fast. I'm going to turn it off. My eyes hurt. All right. Lauren
says, have either of you tried a Vox Mini Super Beetle? I haven't. Is that like an old one, Lauren, or a new? Is there a new version of it or something?
Yeah, and it's really small, like a whole unit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like a head turned up on end.
Really?
Yeah.
And it's new.
Lando 27 Music in here. He has one. Actually, really? I think he has got one of the first, at least in Canada.
Huh. Interesting.
Lawrence Petross Design is asking, what year did you go to MI?
It was 90 to 91. So long time ago. But
he's also an alumni, I believe.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah. It was a minute ago, man. I mean, it was still hair metal. No Nirvana yet.
Right.
It was that long ago. Sunset Strip, those days.
I was in high school at the time, and I remember literally, you're noodling on a guitar in the hallway, and it went from one day, hey, man, can you play Eruption? To the next day, hey, man, can you play Smells Like Teen Spirit? It's like, what have I been doing for 3 years,
Yeah. It became a really interesting time because guitar solos went out the window. Nobody wanted to hear a guitar solo, and it became a lot more about writing and songs, which was great because I feel like it should have. And the interesting thing is I felt like it gave me a bit of a career because, to be honest, there's all these kids out there that are we're so far past the 80s and that time where it wasn't cool to be like technically proficient on guitar, right? Yeah. Kids these days, they don't even, or even young adults or middle-aged adults don't even remember a time where that was the case. You got to be of our generation, like pushing 50 or whatever, to be to remember when it was like it wasn't cool to play a solo or be technically adept. It was cool if you were actually kind of a hack, and it was almost like a punk rock get back to basics thing. Yeah. But I felt like, because I spent a lot of time in the 80s and stuff, like learning covers and getting technique and all that stuff, that then in the late 90s, early 2000s, it started like it was benefit. There wasn't a hell of a lot of guitar players in LA that could hang. There was a lot of people that spent a lot of time writing songs, and like working on their own original music and bands, which was great. For a sideman guitar player, there wasn't that much competition, and so like that could learn songs, get tones, technically handle certain parts and stuff. And I felt like there was a small community of us that ended up getting a lot of gigs, like the early 2000s through the mid 2000s to 2010. And now it's like, it's just like all you need to do is like you can throw a stone down the street and hit a kid that can play like all that crazy stuff. So but anyway, I felt like it was actually really beneficial for my employment. But Daniel Crow, I see, was asking what I thought of Godin guitars.
Yes, and Lawrence went to MI in 92 and 93, so he was right behind you. Then worked there from 93 to 95.
Oh, really? Oh, worked there. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, go ahead. Godin Guitars. Thoughts?
Which is the same company. And I now have one of their nylon strings. I have it in the other room, but it's one of those ones like Steve Stevens plays and stuff. He actually hooked me up with them. And it's an awesome guitar. I played it on my last record, actually. I used it on a solo. I can't even remember the name of the song that I used it on actually right now. But anyways, it's a great sounding guitar. And I was touring with a guy named Michel Polnareff, French artist, in 2016, and I needed a nylon string that didn't feed back, and that I had to play the solo on, and it worked out great. It was a terrific guitar. So I've never really owned one of their electrics, but I've owned the Seagull acoustic, and I've owned the this nylon string, which I think is terrific. So I
Nice.
think they're a really good company, and they make. I mean, the prices are super duper reasonable. However, they were able to work out manufacturing in North America and make North American made quality guitars for kind of like under $1,000. It's pretty.
I agree. I agree
like
on
they
that.
they almost stand alone, don't they? Like there's not that many companies that
are
able to pull that off.
And their electric acoustics have been an industry standard since the 80s. Like Chet Atkins was using one, I think, at the end of his career.
Is that right?
I think so.
Yeah. I mean, the nylon is awesome. It sounds great, and I'm sure the steel strings were great too and stuff. Interestingly enough, you say that, and this is a guitar I have, but I haven't used for a long time. It's storage. You're making me think about it. I should go get it, but I've got a Chet Atkins Gibson, one of the Chet Atkins steel strings.
Oh yeah,
Remember those? And that's a very similar guitar to the. So I could see how Chet would like them, but it's like almost like a thin body. I don't know if it's solid or chambered at all, but it's one of those Chet Atkins, steel strings. And I love that guitar. And I used to tour with it, and I'd just run it into a pedal board, and actually you could use fuzz and distortion with it and stuff. I remember doing this particular artist I played with, that worked. I'd go direct and actually use some effects on it. Yeah. And it was really cool. So that was a good guitar, but Winston McKay was asking how old I am. I am 45 for another month. There you go.
Let's see here. And if we missed a question, folks, definitely ask again. And hey, Will. And Will, if you ask a question, he always jokes with me because he would ask you questions in your chat. And he's like, dang it, Pete never answers my questions. And then it was like, he had sent me an email on it, and you had answered his question like a minute later. I said, see, there you go. So can't complain,
That's funny.
Like, but you've got like 400 or 500 people watching. So I get it.
They go by really fast, and I feel bad, but I try, and that's why I hang on there for 2 hours and just try and stay and do as much as I can. But
Landa was asking, if you hadn't discovered Sir, what brand do you think you would be playing right now?
That's interesting. I don't know. I was a big Gibson endorser for many years. Like I was basically if I was on television or something with an artist, it was a Gibson guitar from about 99 until 2009 or 10.
And what did you play from them?
Sorry? What
did you play from them?
Well, like I have right here, I have this guitar, which is it's a R9 from, this is actually a 50th anniversary 59 reissue.
Beautiful.
So I got this 2009. This would be one of the last guitars that kind of and then I have I have a bunch of them here actually, now that I think about it, in the room. Where's my, let me get this guitar. Just one sec.
Let's keep those questions coming, folks. I'm trying to keep up the best we can here. We got 128 watching. I assume 100 thumbs ups.
Okay, here's a little show and tell. So this guitar I got in Edmonton, actually, and this isn't something I got from Gibson, but this is a 95 Les Paul Standard, kind of Dean DeLeo style, that wine red, late 90s. It almost looks black, but it's not. It's red. This was a great guitar, and I used to play this one with Chris Cornell in the tuning for, if you look on the headstock, it's got stickers there on the side of the headstock for a certain tuning.
Oh, nice.
And I left it on there, and that's the sticker with the tuning for Pretty Noose and Burden in My Hand.
Awesome.
Two great Soundgarden songs, But so this guitar was always in the tuning for that. And I use this with other people as well, but it's just a great 95 Standard. So I bought it in about 98 or 99. So it was a few years old when I got it, but now it's a 25-year-old guitar.
Now, were you home visiting and you just happened to hit a guitar shop?
Exactly. I was in Edmonton just hanging. And
I kind of figured, yeah.
Yeah. And I always I didn't have a Les Paul at that point. So this guitar, this was kind of the main guitar I played with Cornell, actually. And the time I toured with him and also used with a ton of other people. It's just a 2000 or 2001 Les Paul Custom that originally had the weird gold hardware, but with the white binding. It's gotten a little yellower over the years, but
sure.
And I never liked that. I didn't like when they'd put out with the white binding and the gold hardware. It looked really stark to me. So I asked Gibson if they would replace it with chrome hardware, and they did. And for a long time, I had open coil pickups on it. But then I put a set of Thornbuckers in it, and so they've got the nickel covers on it. So, nice. So that's kind of the idea with this. And this guitar had a pretty wicked headstock break too. Around this guitar we used to abuse when I played with Chris. I saw the video of Buck Dharma once from Blue Oyster Cult breaking all the strings on his guitar at the end of a Blue Oyster Cult show, where he'd grab from the first string to the second to the third, and just pull them off the neck, and then he'd end up with nothing but the low E and at the end of the show, and that's the last note. And I thought it looked so cool. He just ripped the strings off the guitar. So I started doing that. I totally copied it. And sometimes I would rip one or two or three, and Cornell would always laugh. He just thought it was so funny. And then I'd hold the guitar out sometimes like this, and he would grab 3 of them at a time and just rip them off the neck of the guitar and just break them. So this guitar got abused by us we probably did that like 60 times or something, And then one day in 2008, I think it was, or 2000, I've been playing with him for a year or two, 2008 or 2009, the guitar was sitting on a stand. And it was a carpeted floor. I remember that. It was sitting behind me on a stand, and I backed up into it, and I kicked it by accident, and it just kind of teetered and then went over sideways like this, kind of slow, not very dramatic, and hit the ground, and the headstock just.
That's it.
And I thought, I can't believe that happened after we just abused that guitar so terribly, and that's what it took. Finally, it was just like, I give up, and so it's got this repair right here that's kind of a horizontal crack right across, but it was really well repaired, and it was fine after the repair. It's still great. So that's the story of this one. But yeah, this was a guitar that I had kind of an informal deal with Gibson where they don't really technically give guitars to people, but I played with them. And this is like anybody looking for an endorsement. This is my tip. I used a Gibson and I used to do a lot of television when I was playing with artists like, Jewel or Five for Fighting or Cornell, with Cornell, God, we played like, I was on a first name base with a lot of the folks at like the Tonight Show or stuff like this, the techs and the sound people and the grips and stuff like that. You'd see them, they'd be, hey Pete, what's up? Cause I'd go and play like 4 times a year or something. You'd go, do Leno or the different shows, whoever the hosts were then, Jimmy Kimmel and all these different shows. So anytime I was on television, I was using a Gibson, and I would catalog all the shows. I used to do it on VHS. I'd record the show on a VHS tape because I'm old, and then I would walk into Gibson like once every couple months or whatever. Right. They had an office here, artist relations office in LA, and I would take them the tape and go, "Here's all the shows I did with the guitar, like over the last few months, whatever, maybe it was that Black Les Paul Custom, for instance, because I've had it since 2000 or 2001, and they were so impressed with that I would take the time to like catalog it and say, I just want you to know that I'm supporting you, and this is what I'm doing with the guitar to get it on TV with these and the different artists and stuff. And so I would say they didn't technically ever say, we give guitars away. It'd be like, we'll sell them to you at an artist cost, or you can borrow the guitar and get it. And I say, listen, lend me the guitar for 6 months or 3 months or whatever, and I'm going to earn it from you. And I'm going to prove it that I'll earn it from you. And then I would do the thing with the videotape and stuff and say, here, I did Kimmel, I did, Craig Kilborn, I did the Leno show, I did, who else had, daytime television shows, Regis, or like these different shows, all these different, the morning shows, Good Morning America, like whatever. I played on all these shows, and I would always show them that I'd done that. And then they'd say, you know what? We're writing it off the books. It's yours. Take it. And so on average, about once a year, Gibson would give me a guitar from about 2099 through 2009. Nice. So I got probably about 10 instruments from Gibson. I was real loyal, like always on television. That's all I played.
Well, that makes sense.
And then I sort of, anyway, it's a long-winded story, but here's another one. These are guitars I'm showing you a bunch here that aren't, Gibson guitars that I got through Artist Deal or whatever. This guitar I bought in about 2001 or 2, and it's a 63 335 that people that watch my channel will be familiar with, but I love this friggin' guitar. It's got so much tone, and it's full Eric Clapton, or, like it's that 63 early block thing. Quite a thin neck, PAF in the neck, and a early patent number in the bridge. And it's had some pretty wicked headstock breaks too. 2 of them, one of them after I bought it, but it was well repaired now, and it's it's a great sounding guitar. These are player guitars, I beat them up.
Nice. Hey, there's Brian Landreth. I forgot to shout you out earlier, Brian. I checked out Brian's appearance on Hanging Out with PJ and the Beard. That was a great show, Brian. I forgot to text you earlier today. I really dug it. Some great stories. Everyone should check out Brian Landreth's channel. Give him a sub and force him to make more videos because they're awesome. Stephen Douglas, my birthday is on May 22nd, which is a Friday, and I will be doing a birthday hangout again here this year. Because that way we can all hang out for my birthday, we can all have a few drinks, and nobody has to drive home. The virtual party.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I did a hangout like
that. If you're available, there you go.
I did a hangout like that with some friends the other night where we all got together on Saturday and, 6 of us or whatever in a chat like this and use Zoom. And it was pretty cool. It's like,
hey, Boner Jams in the house. Great show, guys. Pete, did Chris Cornell discuss what he went into his songwriting process, tunings, lyrics, and other ideas? Stay safe, everyone, and have a great week.
Not really. I would ask him things and he'd be really vague about it. But I'd ask him about lyrics. What were you thinking about when you wrote the song or whatever? And he'd go, I was probably depressed about something. So he'd say something like that, He'd never give me like a real hard answer. But what he did do is teach me how to play some of the songs. Because a song like those ones like Pretty Noose and stuff, I mean, I figured it out on the internet, but there was plenty. I've got a video of him actually teaching me how to play a Soundgarden song like Suicide because I couldn't figure it out. And I was like, how's this go? And he, I was like, I just can't. And he goes, here, I'll just show you how to play it. And then he tunes the guitar in this weird tuning. And I'm like, oh, there it is. It was so much easier to just ask him many times because like many things, like the Rain song, it kind of falls under your fingers once you know the tuning.
Right.
Beat your head against the wall if you don't know the tuning, trying to figure it. Now we've got the internet and pretty much everything is out there. But,
right.
Even 10 or 12 years ago or whatever, when I was starting with Chris, there wasn't as much out there about things like that. So it was a bit more of a challenge.
See my good buddy Pete Goyer in the chat. Pete in Canada. Good to see you. And there's Caleb Rappaport himself. We were discussing you earlier, buddy. And
awesome.
So long, Lawrence Petross has to head out. He's probably off to build a bunch more pedals, creating that classic tone.
Take care. Have a good evening.
Yeah. Ross says, yeah, although I hate the overuse of the term genius, I do feel it applies to Chris Cornell. Agreed.
Yeah, man. I mean, the fact that he was able to branch into so many different, he had a really, really wide, I mean, it wasn't just the screaming rock thing, obviously. When you gotta, come up with a soundtrack song for The Promise or something, and you listen to how deep. I mean, he had a really, he was a great listener of all different, tons of different genres and stuff. He was a really, really interesting guy. Just a really high functioning guy.
Would you say he was a lot like Prince in that respect?
Like Prince?
Yeah.
He had a lot of respect for Prince, that's for sure. He did a great cover of what was it? Nothing Compares to You, I think.
Yeah, forget about it. Yeah.
So maybe he just had a really, really I mean, the fact that he could kind of go out and sell out Royal Albert Hall or something by himself,
right,
solo, because he really, it's probably scary for him maybe initially to go out and do an entire 2-hour show or something on solo acoustic guitar. But he did it, and then he got better and better at it, actually. And, I'll tell you another story. Like, I remember him asking, because he couldn't go to Guitar Center generally. I mean, he could, but it was like, he's Chris Cornell, so he goes in Guitar Center, and it's like, cause some sort of scene or whatever. So he was kind of shy. So, like, really, actually, I don't know if he was shy, but he was like, he tried to, avoid situations where it would be too intense with, so
sure.
Anyway, long story short, he asked me to go get him one day some looper pedals. This was after kind of like he was starting to do the songbook tour and stuff, and he said, would you mind, like, can you tell what's the best ones, like, will you just go pick them out for me? And so I went to Guitar Center. I think I did it here in Sherman Oaks, actually, And I went to Guitar Center and I played a few, tried like the Bosses and different ones. And I ended up getting Digitech Jam Mans for them. I like those because there was 99 memory locations, I think, and a little SD card, and you could store, you know, they just seemed really easy to use. And so I got him two Digitech Jam Mans. And, you know, I probably spent an hour there, like trying different ones. I got him those and I took them to him. And then about like 2 weeks later, I saw one of his first songbook series, you know, this early tour that he did before he put out the Higher Truth album and stuff at the Troubadour in LA. And he played Ticket to Ride, which you can find on YouTube. And he used the Jam Mans. And it was brilliant. It was like the way that he did this loop thing at the end. He built using the Jam Mans this loop. And I was like, oh my God, like he's really cool, you know, like he just figured out this amazing ending to Ticket to Ride with the Jam Mans.
Awesome.
Really neat. So
I'll have to check that out. I don't think I've seen that.
Yeah, so check it out. It's like 2010, I think. Was if you look at the Troubadour 2010, Chris Cornell probably pop up Ticket to Ride and you'll find it. But that was like a week after I'd gone and bought the pedals for him, and he just went to work and he was very creative. I mean, just, you know, and he loved home studio stuff and, you know, working at home and kind of, you know, shutting himself in the room with all that, which I get because we're all doing that these days. You know, we all got our little rooms that we're in. Mm-hmm. He loved that. I mean, just kind of like, you know, we used to rap about. Some of my most fun times was rapping with him about the same stuff we talk about on here. Like, so how do you know, like things like, I mean, I just gotten him a reactive load and got him set up with impulse responses and stuff. So he was tracking he had like a little Fender Deluxe. And he had a PT100 actually at home because he'd started using PT100s on tour.
Thank you, Ben. Awesome. He's on it. He already found that Ticket to Ride video.
Oh, did he? Cool.
In the chat.
Awesome. Yeah.
You're making me look bad here, Ben. You're doing better mod duties than I do. Then again, I don't seem to attract the amount of young available women in your area channels lately. You've been getting about 30 of those a week.
I have?
Yeah.
Isn't that weird? The ads, you just never know.
Yeah. Although they didn't show up this past one. I guess they took Palm Sunday off. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Or it's like the ads that show up in the side of YouTube, you know, find Russian brides or whatever. I get those sometimes. Yeah. Yeah.
If I see one of those randomly, my first thought is, what did I click on yesterday to generate that ad today?
Exactly. Totally. You've been getting your news from Russia today or something.
Exactly. And thank you. Terry posted a link to your channel, Pete. And yes, in case you're one of the few that haven't already subscribed to Pete, definitely check it out. Great demos, lesson videos, weekly live Q&A like this. It's great. It's become a Sunday ritual for me because, you know, going live at 8 p.m. here every Sunday, it's like, well, what do you do all day? You know, it's like the day of a gig. I got to fill my day. And that, you know, you'll come on around 2:30 my time. And I'm just like, perfect. Right in the middle of the day, breaks up my day. And that's Sunday ritual now.
Yeah, hey, man, you've been so awesome. I mean, you're always there and you're always helping me out. And it was a little chaotic before that because I'd get these. It
was. You know, well, you get behind in the chat just because you're trying to answer every question. And it's like, if you're 15 minutes behind in the chat, you're dealing with people. We're dealing with other non-fun for 15 minutes or what have you. Yeah. And then, I just remember, what was it, during NAMM this year? It just happened the guys I was staying with, they were having a late morning. So you went live, you know, I think it was 11 a.m. on the West Coast. And I think you were in England and you're like, oh, Ben, you're here. I thought you were at NAMM. I'm like, I'm actually suntanning in a backyard right now in Laguna Niguel. So let's do that.
Perfect. Yeah, man.
Hey, David Nesdall. Good to see you. He's got a new show out on Thursdays called Nez Says. Larry Mitchell is coming on this Thursday.
Oh, is he? Cool. Larry's great.
Yeah. Larry was on here a few weeks ago, and I know whenever I need a pick-me-up, I do a Google search on the Guitar Summit in Germany from, 2018? The Purple Rain cover that you were up there with Larry and Eula, John Roth, Phil X, and a bunch of others.
I forgot did we play Purple Rain?
Yeah, I think you closed out the show with, it's like an 11-minute version of Purple Rain, and I'm like, perfect.
Oh my God, I forgot that we even did that. That I remember. Well, of course, I remember playing with Uli and everything, but I forgot that we played that song. Because what I'll always remember about standing there with Uli is he was standing right beside me, and Phil and I were like fanboys. I remember we going out in the crowd and listening to him from the front because we wanted to hear him in front, and he had this Black Star, I think, amp. Does he play Black Star now? But it's basically a plexi. And his thing is basically a plexi just cranked, and then he's got this guitar, that crazy Sky guitar with all the effects built in, and he was so loud, it was just ripping loud. But that's the way he plays.
Oh yeah,
and it was great. And so, but we got on stage, and I remember playing beside him, and he leaned over to me and he goes, "I'm very sorry, my amp is very loud," he said. And I said, "I know, I love it." I was like, I wouldn't have it any other way. You're Uli, Well,
that's the thing. Like I watched the video, I don't know, 20, 30 times at this point. And it's one of those, it gets to the point, you're not watching the performance overall. I'm watching, say, you and Uli talking, or the fact that you're taking selfies because there's 5 guitar players, so you can stop playing for half a verse.
Yeah.
Grab selfies, and then Larry Mitchell's doing the same thing. Oh, it's great.
Yeah, that event's fun. It's Thomas Blug that puts it on. He kind of organizes the jam every year and the guests. So this year it was Paul Gilbert and Billy Sheehan. So I got to jam with those guys, which was amazing. Nice. You got to forget. I mean, I remember getting the nod. Okay, go up and play a solo. We were playing. What were we playing? Voodoo Child or something, I think. And I remember just going, okay, like just forget all these guys are here and close your eyes. Go up and now do something. What would David Gilmour do? And I just sort of went with that approach. I tried to play something melodic and I turned on a vibe, I think. And because it's like Paul Gilbert and stuff standing there, and it's like, what am I going to do? So I tried to go totally another way with it and just be melodic and play without any kind of like, no, none of that. Like, oh, I have to, because it's like, it's weird. I grew up listening to these guys, Billy and, it's like, so all of a sudden you're up there, but yeah. But he does a great job.
The closest I can say I ever got to that was last year at Summer NAMM. I walked by a booth that was selling slides, and RJ Ronquillo was there. And RJ is like, "Ben, you got to try these slides. They're great." And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And I have not picked up a slide in 6 months, easy, right? And then I realized, and RJ, he was just, he's done courses on slide work. So then all of a sudden I'm well, you know what? I got just enough beer into me that I'm okay doing this.
Yeah, man. Yeah, he's great. He's got a great channel too. He does really good content, really good
Sunday
stuff.
Or Saturday mornings, coffee time with RJ. He comes on at, it'll be 7 a.m. your time every Saturday morning.
He uses a PT 100 a lot for his demos as well, I think.
Yes, he does. Actually, he uses it a lot on live streams too.
That's cool. He's a good guy.
Robbie was asking about me playing with Melissa Etheridge and how it was. She's awesome, man. She's so nice, so much fun. And the catering was great.
Have you ever jammed with Richie Kotzen?
No, but I've gotten to know him a little bit actually over the last year or so, or maybe year and a half. And he's really nice, and I get along great with him. It was funny. I saw him like around Christmas. I would go to Christmas parties, and we'd see each other. Like I went to Gilby Clark's Christmas party, and then another one at a house out in kind of the West Valley, and another one, and he was there at all of them, and I was like, hey. And we met at Rami, the keyboard player from Foo Fighters. They had this big barbecue last year at Rami's studio, and it was amazing because I always remember Dave was there cooking the whole time. Grohl was like behind the grill, just like cooking because a lot of people came out, and he was working the whole night.
Because one, he's a super nice guy, and two, he does like the barbecue.
Oh man, he was just like, he had a baseball hat on backwards and was just like sweating behind the grill the whole time.
I was going to actually ask you if you'd ever had any interaction with Dave Grohl, because he seems to be, for the star status that he has, he's got to have the smallest ego.
He's a great guy as far as I can tell. I've only met him a few times, but he was really nice every time, and I could tell another story about that actually in a second, but I was just going to say about what were we just talking about that I was, Richie. So Richie was at that. And I had a long talk with Richie actually about real estate because I was looking at buying a place, and I remember I knew he had a cool house and stuff, and he lived out. And then the fires happened a couple weeks after that, and we'd had a long talk about his place, and his house was spared, luckily. I mean, because he was right in the middle of where a lot of people lost their homes and stuff out there. And so I was really worried about him. I remember texting and saying, "Hey man, we were just talking about your house. Is everything cool?" But anyways, and then I saw him not so long ago at these Christmas parties and stuff. So we've made kind of friends over the last little while, and he's a really, really sweet. Oh, and I went to New Year's at his, that's what the other one. I went to a New Year's party at his place. That might be a year ago, New Year's. So it's kind of over the last year and a half that I've, been able to kind of connect with him. And he's just a sweet, sweet, sweet guy. Really, really, really nice guy. And I've loved his guitar playing for a long, long time. I mean, I remember I actually saw him play in LA the very first or second week that I got to LA in 90. He played at the Central, which is what the Viper Room, the location where the Viper Room opened in 92 or 1 or something like that. Something like that. It was, Johnny Depp's club. But before that, it was called the Central, and I saw Richie play there, right when I got to LA. So I've known about him for eons, but never really connected with him. Nice. But anyway, Grohl, he strikes me. Yeah, he just seems like a terrific guy. I mean, I remember when I was playing with Cornell, taking a lunch break. We used to rehearse in the Valley all the time, not far from where I am right now. And I remember taking a lunch break one day at rehearsal and going. It was me and Jason Sutter, I think, the drummer, and Chris, and maybe a couple other people. And we went to this taco place in the middle of North Hollywood, in a strip mall. And Grohl came in. And I thought, what are the odds that these two Seattle dudes that are would be in the same taco place in a strip mall in North Hollywood in all these years? But it was really funny, it was just Grohl like, "Hey, what's going on?" And it was like they're just two dudes. And then once Chris got back with Soundgarden, Dave actually ended up directing a video for, what was the song, My Crooked Steps, I think, off of the King Animal Soundgarden album. So they're friends and they knew each other. And
awesome.
Occasionally,
good to see. We got Rob Welch, owner of Tesi Switch, in here. Awesome. Check out Tesi Switch for lots of guitar parts, obviously kill switches, Earthquaker devices, pedals, Keeley pedals, and use coupon code Canucks and save 15%. Got to take care of those channel sponsors. And I did see a gentleman here has been asking about half a dozen times, and I keep forgetting his name, asking about your SLO 50 watt that's been or 30 watt that's been teasing him in the background.
Oh yeah, so I had an SLO here, and it was a new one, but it wasn't the 30; it was 100. And I did try, but I did have a 30 in here. It was just never in a video. So the one that he's talking about was a new 100, and I did try that, and I tried the 30, and I liked the 100 actually, and I thought it sounded great. Now I'm no expert in SLOs. I did use one once with I got to do a set of music with Government Mule on a New Year's Eve. It was New Year's Eve 2008. So, New Year's 2008, 9, whatever. At the, where was it? Roseland Ballroom, New York City. I got to do a set of actually Seattle songs with Government Mule. And it was really fun. Some of those videos are on YouTube.
Cool.
But I used one of Warren's SLOs for the set. And that was the only time I've ever really played one. And I thought it was great. I thought it was very comfortable. I mean, it was cool. I brought my pedal board and I just used that SLO. But that's the only time I've ever really used one for any considerable length of time. So I'm no expert in that, because there's a lot of do they sound like the old ones? I'm pretty good friends with Dave Friedman, and he's told me that into the old ones, and of course, obviously Mike Saldana is a big part of the whole thing.
Sure.
And Dave says they sound every bit as good, if not better, than the old ones, like the new ones. And there was a couple around, and I thought I want to try these. I never really tried them in the studio, and I've been critical and listened to them and see what I think. So I had the 100 in here for a couple of days, and I tried it, and I really liked it. Actually, it's neat. It's different than my amp. my PT amps are like very Marshall voicing,
Right.
EL34s, obviously, and plexi output transformers. And the sound is a little more, there's a clarity to the Soldano, and kind of like if it was, if you were to use a negative term about it, it would be that it could be kind of grating or something. But if you were to use a positive term, it would be clarity. And I thought it was like, this would be a neat thing to have around in my arsenal, actually, this tone. It's a little different than the Marshall voicing, and a really, really good alternative, the high gain, like that clear, very clear. And the distortion sounds kind of like, when people talk about like fine grain distortion versus big grain distortion, the Soldano to me has that big grain distortion kind of sound, like a little bit more. It's got a bit of a rasp to it, and a bit of,
as opposed to a sizzle.
Yeah, the Marshall kind of like thing is it's a little different sound, but it's a really good sound, I think, and a usable sound. And sometimes in a track, when you're like maybe like an SLO blending with an old plexi or something, and then hard panning them, or using them at the same time, like when Adam from Tool would use like a dual rectifier and an old super bass at the same time, or a diesel and something like that, where I could see it being a cool thing to have. So who knows? Maybe I'll, because I don't have a huge range of high gain stuff here. Now, that said, I've got some Synergy modules here, and I have the Synergy SLO module here. And so I didn't get a chance to directly A/B that with the actual amp, because that would be something I think would be interesting.
They're very close.
Yeah, it seems to be, it's got a great sound, I've got a bunch of them here right now. I've got the Steve Vai one, the Bogner Ecstasy, Powerball, Uberschall, like a lot of high gain flavors here. And so my next thing is that I have one of their power amps, is I want to try using the preamp into my PT15 using my power amp of my amp, and then I want to compare it to their power amp and see what the difference is between when you use it, like the Syn one with your own amp, or with a dedicated power amp that they make. I want to hear the difference in the sound.
Our friend Caleb here has a question, because it is something that's definitely going to affect him. What's the best floorboard modeling unit I'm going to need for travel and casinos? Help me, Pete.
Well, like I always say,
that Van Halen tone.
It's an impossibility to say which is best for you, because it's like saying, so there's a Honda Accord and a Toyota Camry and Mazda, whatever, CX-5 or so, similar cars,
right?
Or there's the BMW and the Mercedes and the whatever, all in the same class. Which one should I get? And it's like, they're all great, like at what they do, at being an amp simulator. The Fractal, the Helix, the Head Rush. I always say, what kind of person are you? Because probably the easiest one to use is the Helix, I think. Generally speaking, it's the easiest to program. It's very kind of elegant the way it's laid out. It's very simple. Maybe the Head Rush too is quite simple because of the touch screen and the dragging. It sort of has the least amount of options, but for some people that could be a good thing.
Right.
The Axe is the deepest, and can be sometimes a little frustrating as far as programming, but to their credit, what I always say about Fractal and the Axe Effects is that the deeper and the more time that you do spend with it, the better and better it sounds. You know how a lot of pieces of gear, like in the past, like be complicated, you'd get into it and spend all this time on it, and then like you'd just get frustrated after 2 hours, you still didn't have a good sound, and be like, I don't know, I'm just turning knobs, I'm not getting anywhere. The Axe Effects is the opposite. You spend time with it, and the sounds get better and better and better and better, and you learn how to tweak, and it's like, wow. And there's so many options and routing and stuff that you can do with effects, parallel things and stuff. It's just whether or not you have the patience and the desire to do all that stuff. Some people want to just plug in yourself. You have to ask yourself, do I feel lucky? No, you have to ask yourself, what kind of musician are you? What, are you a plug and play kind of person? Are you kind of begrudgingly getting into modeling because of convenience? Or are you somebody that really enjoys tweaking? You look at Edge, right? From U2 and his big old guitar rig racks of stuff and switching amps. And you go, he's probably a pretty good Axe Effects candidate because he's into that stuff. He's into,
his roadies have been begging for years on that one.
Yeah, and he's in, and the complexity doesn't seem to bother him. Yeah. So if you're that kind of person where it's like you're coming from a big switching rig and a bunch of amps and stuff, you're like, well, I don't know. That's kind of what I do anyway. I'm just going to do it in the digital form. Or if you're a plug and play, kind of, somewhere in the middle, like, get a pedal board and then 1 amp or maybe 2 amps UAB or just 1 amp. Or if you're just like a pedal or no pedals and just right into the amp kind of person, what are you going to use? Well, if you're that kind of player, I'd probably recommend like something like one of the Atomics. Like this is their new bass thing. This company.
Okay. Yep.
And they make a little pedal that's like this. That's like a modeling pedal for guitar that has like an A and a B setting on it. This is their bass one, but the guitar one looks really similar. And it's basically you can get kind of a clean amp and a dirty amp or whatever, and then A B between them and with a boost. So for a plug and play kind of player that doesn't want to mess around, something like one of these is probably good. For the Edge, the Axe FX3 is good. So where are you on that spectrum?
Right.
That's what I think. More because they can all be made to sound pretty damn good.
I agree.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
So it's more about the workflow. Exactly.
And it's nice to have something that you can get pretty in depth with just the unit without having to hook it up to a computer too. That's especially because if you're buying it because you're not taking your full rig, obviously you're not going to be having access necessarily to a computer.
Yeah, that's true. The Axe FX, I find I definitely like using the editor. The Helix, also like using the editor, not quite as necessary. I can get around on a Helix without the editor. The Axe FX, I'm like kind of lost these days without the computer editor. Not
great line, True Tech. He says, "Yeah, Pete is the Bob Ross of guitar." Now, see, you could have went full Bob Ross on that EQ demo, eh? And let's just add a little 10K right here. We'll just sprinkle in a little 10K.
Yeah, exactly.
We got Chris, the guitar pit here.
The EQ is right here. Actually, this thing's good. If nobody's seen this thing, I really like this thing.
It is cool.
Yeah, it's really good. It's you can use it stereo or you can use it in front and also in the loop of an amp. So there's a video on my channel about this thing, but it's really cool. I just got to send a text to, actually it's Britt here. Send her a text.
You do that. And wow, Brian from Oregon, with the donation to the channel. Still love you, Ben. I still love you, Brian from Oregon. I get to see him randomly at NAMM every year. It's awesome.
Oh, yeah?
Yes. Unfortunately, he missed me playing at NAMM this year, but he had showed up to the booth just after I finished, which at first I thought, and thanks again, Lawrence Petross. I know he already left, but if he's watching this on replay, thanks again, Lawrence, for letting me demo his pedals at NAMM, which, of course, I jumped at the opportunity because that's a bucket list item, being able to perform at NAMM. And then I realized I don't want to play at NAMM with guys like you walking by, Pete. I'm not going to lie.
I feel the same. Dude, I hate playing at NAMM anyway because it's so not musical. With all the noise going on and stuff, how are you supposed to get into making anything with that kind of level of? So I generally don't play at NAMM. I really don't like it. I mean, that's why I told Ian that one time that it's like, look, let's play songs. Like if you've got a band there with a drummer and a singer and you can actually perform a song, that's one thing. Or maybe in some of the rooms, like, Taylor's got their own space where you can go in and have that quiet, space where you could actually, which is smart because they're an acoustic guitar company and it's like, it's they kind of need that. So, but all that chaos going on and everybody.
I think I'd much rather do like what Larry Mitchell does and just play one night at the Hilton or something like that.
Yeah, I mean that's fun. Doing a gig is different. I've done those gigs with Steve Stevens and and doing where we do it's a band. Then it's fun. Then it's exciting and it's fun. And I like that. But playing on the floor or playing in a booth, the thing of playing to tracks in a booth, I hate that shit.
I think the only person that had it good as far as performing at NAMM this year, Phil X playing at Gibson at 5 p.m. every day because they have a whole separate room with a full stage. Yeah,
if they got a room and stage and a separate, you can get your band up there. It's awesome. Yeah. If you've got some control, and it's great. You're just trying to play in a. I mean, I guess this year the Sir guys they had some performances, and I remember recommending them to get some because they were just going to have studio monitors. This is not going to be enough. You're going to need like some monitors or something on the floor or something for the guys to hear. And so like I think Ben Eller and Andy Wood played and they got I think they got some, like they were Behringers or something, but they said they sound good and they were fine. And then it was cool. Of course, you got to be careful of the NAM police and the level and all that. But it's, but I just really dislike the whole shredding at NAM to tracks thing. I don't like, I just want to walk around, see the stuff. And then I get interested, excited, and make notes, mental notes. And then later on, maybe I'll, see the stuff when if I don't have, to be honest, if I can't get it in this room, I don't know what it sounds like.
Well, like when you're saying all the shredding at NAM, and then Jack the Rabbit said Sammy Bowler did a great job at NAM. It's like literally I got a 5-minute window to play a Friedman amp because going into that amp room, it's just nothing but shredders, and I'm not a shredder. So it was literally Sammy putting a guitar in my hand saying, "Here, play. Nobody's in here." Right. And I was like, okay, thanks. And as soon as somebody walked in, I just killed the volume pot, handed the guitar back to Sammy. I'm good.
Yeah. Sammy's great. And he, and they, once again, they got their own private space there.
Yeah.
With Friedman. So that's a good situation, I guess, for, as long as you get that, then I guess it can work. But I don't know.
Very awesome with the super chat here. He says, I see you're 25 and raise you 5. Thanks, Brian from Oregon. And check out Jason Hobbs, killer guitarist and big time Sir player and fellow Canuck as well. Check out Jason Hobbs. He's here in the chat, folks. Check out his channel, Jason Hobbs.
Awesome.
And Jason, hit me up. We should do a hangout together too.
Excellent.
He's always posting photos of like Tellys and Sirs, so we gotta like him.
For sure. Definitely. Who else we got here? See Sean in there.
Have you ever played or met Steven Wilson from Porcupine Tree?
I never met him, but I like Porcupine Tree and I like Steven. I think he's great. Great music. I mean, he's really interesting writing and just terrific,
Let's see here. Where did I see that now? Oh, yeah. Caleb said that Friedman wet is ridiculous. Well, see, Caleb can go in and play on that stuff and not make a fool of himself like me. And I will say thanks again to Caleb, who has the #1 video on my channel, because we ran up to the EVH booth to demo the new Frankie guitar because, Pete, EVH fans are very wanting to see that stuff. So I went up and he's like, here, you record me noodling and I'll record you noodling or record your demo for you. And then as soon as he started playing, I went, nope, that's my demo for my channel. So
is he so wait a second. Was it the new Frankenstein guitar?
Yes.
Is that what it was? How's it look? Is it cool?
Oh, it's very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. The neck feels like it's so played in. And the fact you can feel all the stripes on the guitar is amazing.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
There's part of me that wants to get one of those. It's like,
there's a part of me that wants one too.
Yeah. It seems pretty cool.
There's Jason Hobbs there. All right. Awesome. He says, thanks for the nice compliment, guys. Oh, you're more than welcome.
Somebody's talking about
somebody asked, if you and I, if we grew up near each other. No, we grew up about 2,000 miles apart because I'm about 100 miles east of Toronto. And Pete grew up in Edmonton.
So that'd be like San Francisco to Detroit kind of distance,
Yeah.
Pretty far away.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Actually,
spread out.
Think of Edmonton. Since my cool cousin Brad, who still lives in Edmonton and is about your age, I'm going to throw him under the bus because he was gigging around Edmonton around the time, and I'm just curious if you recognize the band or not, because he did a Throwback Thursday, and I did a screenshot. I just have to find the bloody photo here.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Oh, let's see here. Keep those questions coming, folks. And I will say my cousin Brad is very cool because he actually sent me this 71 Telly as a gift.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That's awesome.
I had played Dead 67. I had joined a band. I needed a Telly, so I started gigging with it. But I didn't want to gig with it too much because obviously for sentimental reasons, being my dad's old guitar. And so he fell in love with Tellys because he briefly lived with us. And that was the first Telly he ever played. And so he sent me one, and the deal was fix it up, gig with it, keep it, and just use it. So
It's cool, man. That's a nice looking telly. It's last year lacquer, right? I mean, after that they went to poly.
yeah.
So 67's a good year. I looked at a couple 67s when I got mine.
My 71's still lacquer.
Oh, is it? No, shouldn't be.
Wait. The amount of checking, it's lacquer.
Well, they check the poly checks, but I have to disagree with you. They went pretty much across the board and went 68 to poly, but some of it does check. It's a lot of people think poly won't check, but it will.
Oh, fair enough.
68 is generally. So if you look at the back of the neck, look at the difference in the back of the neck on those two guitars. Is it more shiny? Is it more of that poly thing?
I'll show you why we can't compare the two.
Okay.
So this one was, I will say, lightly gigged. So it still has a lot of shine.
Yeah.
As opposed to a generation where, as you know, you owned one guitar.
Yeah.
So there's the fretboard.
Yeah. Well, that's standard. That's standard lacquer versus poly.
Right. Okay.
I rest my case, Ben Coombs. You could play that 71 as much as you want, and it's still going to look like that, like shiny.
Fair enough. Touche, Pete Thorn. Touche.
You don't have to believe me, but that's the proof's in the pudding of the. Well, look at my. I wish I had a 70s Fender in here. I don't, but mine's the same way. I mean, this is a 66, and it's pretty worn off.
Right.
It's not quite as. But you can see right there all the lacquer's gone on that side. And this neck is really quite sticky. Whatever they were doing with the lacquer. This is a weird neck on this guitar. It's actually kind of and I've played a few from this era that are sort of like this, and it leads me to believe somebody was wacky with the sanding back then. But it's quite thick down here. Not super thick, and then it gets thinner as you go up. So most necks are a little thicker as they go, but somebody was sanding necks at Fender in 66 and making them, I swear it's thicker at the first fret than it is down here, which is a little odd. It thins out a little bit, but they're still really cool guitars, and it made it, 66, it makes it kind of affordable, just slightly. Yeah. CBS guitar, but.
Exactly. All right. So here's a photo for you.
Okay.
The Project. Edmonton band.
I don't think I know those guys.
I wish it would focus. Let's see. We'll get closer. There we are. My cousin Brad is the one in the tank top.
They got some rocking hairdos going on. Those two dudes on the right. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So those guys, they're from Edmonton?
Edmonton band. About as far as they got is they went out on tour opening for Loverboy.
Okay.
Right around 81, 82, and around that time, I think.
Oh, okay. So they're. I thought maybe they were later 80s, but so it's early 80s. That's cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought maybe I would know them because I knew a lot of bands from around that.
Well, then I was thinking, like if they were, say, that 3 or 4 years ahead of you in high school, even, it's one of those. You're like, hey, I remember them walking around in high school.
Yeah. There was a lot of bands in Edmonton around the Western Canadian circuit was really interesting then. It was that whole there wasn't a hell of a lot of original things going on, but there was cover bands and some of them had their own songs. But, the cover band circuit was strong. It was like there was these, generally, I don't know if it was like this where you guys were, but I assume it'd be similar. There was a motor hotel with a rock bar attached. and so there was about 4 of those. I just got really Canadian. There was about 4 of those in Edmonton. The CI South, CI West, the Metro, all these different places that bands would roll into on a Sunday. There'd be no gig on a Sunday, so that was the day that bands would travel because these bands would travel to the next town, roll in on a Sunday. They'd all have a monitor guy and a sound guy, and maybe sometimes a 3-person, generally speaking. And they'd have their own lights and their own PA, carry these big old Martin PAs, and set up on the Sunday or whatever, and then do like 3 sets or 2 sets, Monday through Saturday. And there would be like bands that would, they were playing all the hits of the day. It was like Whitesnake and, whatever, everything from Zeppelin to the Who and all kinds of stuff, Van Halen, you know, but it was cover bands, generally speaking, but covers on a pretty, and this is what I grew up doing. I never did that, but I grew up making friends with a lot of the people that did, you know, like, and kind of, they were like my idols when I was 16. There's a lot of these dudes that were probably in their 20s and 30s playing in these bands, and they were really good at playing cover songs and learning that music, which that's what I saw, and that worked well for me later on in my career as a sideman.
Sure.
Like, you weren't shit if you couldn't play, you know, this song by Van Halen or this song. So you worked really hard on getting the parts, and, you know, they were like really adept technically, these bands, at learning this music. And so that's how,
true.
Yeah.
Anthony Murphy here with the super chat. He says, "Hey Pete, did you ever play Toronto with Five for Fighting? I saw them a couple of times here, but the gig at the El Macombo was pretty sweet."
Yeah, I think I did. And it might have been the El Macombo, because I know I played the El Macombo, and when I think back on it, I can't remember what band it was with, but that could be it. I did about a year of touring with them, and we were all over the place in 2001 to 2002 or 2002 to 2003 or something like that.
Did you know that the Elmo has been redone?
Yeah. And actually, Eddie Kramer's got something to do with that.
Yeah, Eddie Kramer lived in Toronto for 3 years building it out.
Exactly. And I did a Tim.
Yeah, so they did the room, but then they also set it up for video and audio recording, and the idea to make concert DVDs there. And
it's the same location?
Yeah.
It always was. Is that right? Yeah, I did a Tim and Pete show with Eddie Kramer, which was amazing. I got to talk to him and ask him a lot of cool questions and stuff. But he and he lent me his reading glasses. I remember that, because I was trying to read my questions and I couldn't. He handed me his glasses and I put them on. That was the start of my thing with reading glasses. So that was pretty cool. But he was great, man. And he was really excited about that project and kind of working on it then, and, you know, stuff. So he that's how I knew about it, was from him. But but yeah, of course, made probably the most world famous by the Stevie Ray Vaughan show down there, right? Live at the El Macombo. Such a great video.
Nice.
Jason
Hobbs here again. Thank you for the super chat. He says, "Pete, my friend knows Darren Jim Law. I told Darren to tell Jim the nice words you said about his playing on one of your past live Sunday feeds. He told me it made Jim's day." Oh man, those guys. You know, there were these two brothers in Edmonton that were really quite something. They could, you know, shredders, like it's just, they could play like crazy, you know, drums and guitar. And Jim was a ripping guitar player, and put a lot of, like, you know, he was 16 at the time, and he could play like Steve Vai and Van Halen and stuff. I'd never seen. I was I think a year younger than him, maybe, or something like that, or maybe the same age. I can't remember. I think I was 15 and he was like 16. And he really kicked me in the ass, because I could play pretty good, but I couldn't play quite like that. And when I saw him play, I was like, whoa! I started, you know, you're 16. It's that competitive age of, like, you know, and he was just, you know, he could play things like the solo duel from Crossroads, you know, Steve Vai, and, you know, all that stuff. He could play all that when he was like 16. I remember there was like guitar contests back then, and he would enter these, you know, like in a bar, be Guitar Wars, and it'd be like, you know, they'd have like, get up there and shred, and they'd give away a guitar or something, or money, or, you know, whatever. And he would win those things against the guys that were, like, you know, in their 20s and 30s in bands that were like, you know, our peer or older, or, you know, our senior or whatever. And he would get up there and just blow everybody. Anyway, and it was kind of novel, because it was like, oh, he's like this teenager that can just, you know, a little bit like that Sammy Boulder thing. He's a young guy. He's like, where do these guys come from that are like 21, 22 that can, you know, play like, but anyway, Jim, he was terrific. Great guitar player, and his brother was a terrific drummer too. So nice. Yeah, I see a few people have mentioned the El Macombo. Yes, the Stones live at the Elmo, Stevie Ray Vaughan live at the Elmo, April Wine live at the Elmo. Because April Wine was opening for the Stones that night, and they saw the mobile recording unit, and Miles Goodwin was smart enough to go and buy some blank reel-to-reel tape, and then said, if you're going to record the Stones set, you might as well record ours too. And boom.
Wow. How interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
April Wine. Always like April Wine. There's a cool April Wine video. I don't know what song it's for, but if anybody's ever seen the Rush videos that they shot at Le Studio in Quebec, there's an April Wine video shot there too. Might be for like I Like to Rock or something like that. You know, that tune,
right?
Like that whole. You know,
I'm trying to think. Yeah, I know the video because Miles shared it last week on Facebook. I'm Facebook friends with him.
Oh, did he? Oh, that's cool. Somebody's asking what my favorite odd chord is. That one. It's gotta be that one. And somebody else was asking me what my favorite mic for recording acoustic is. It really depends. If you're going for a Beatles thing, then it's got to be like, you know, an old U47 or something, or Telefunken, like a you know, large body, you know, because they're a little slower to respond, a little sluggish, and they've got that real character, large diaphragm character. But if you want a real natural acoustic guitar sound, accuracy, something like a Neumann Cam 84 or something similar, a pencil kind of, you know, small diaphragm condenser can work well in those situations. I really like the Cam 184 too, which was the newer Neumann they brought out in the 90s, early 2000s. It's kind of gray, small diaphragm condenser. I love that mic on acoustic guitar. So it just depends what you want. I've got some nice ones. I've got some Audio Technicas 4040s, I think they're called here. They're really nice for acoustic. But yeah, it depends if you want that color, like the Beatle-y kind of more, or Stonesy, or, you know, you want that character, or if you want it to just sound like a great representation of the guitar without too much sonic footprint of the microphone on there. Fingerprint, I should say. Yeah.
All right. Quentin James, the pantless wonder from Louisville, Kentucky, asks, Pete, thought on Quentin James. He's the guy with Emmett the Bird.
What's that?
Quentin James, our friend, the pantsless wonder from Louisville, Kentucky, says, Pete, thought on Quentin James. He's the guy with Emmett the Bird.
Emmett the Bird. I don't get it. Fill me in.
He has a pet bird named Emmett.
Oh, okay. How do I see Emmett the Bird?
You would probably have to subscribe to Quentin James, but then you have to put up with random live streams, random guitar playing, and random shots of a semi-flightless bird.
This is deep, dude. I feel
That's
like
what
I'm
as deep
missing
as
out.
Quentin James gets. And Quentin knows I love him. And there is a vicious rumor going around the internet that Quentin James is actually my father. So, hi, Dad.
Marsman is asking, what's the least expensive guitar I own? It's probably one of my Dan Electros, but they're great. I've got a few Dan Electro guitars.
Very nice.
Like the 12 and the, you know, with the lipstick tubes and all that in them. And they're really cool. My Dano baritone I used it on that latest video with the EQ actually, and it's such a cool guitar. It's like baritone with a trunk
73 opened a can of worms. He just asked my sister, does Amanda know about April Wine? You just don't want to. That's one of my sister's favorite bands of all time. So yes, she is quite familiar.
I saw April Wine and I forgot. Like, you know, you just forget things, or maybe that's just me because maybe I'm reaching that age. But I remember going through old photos a while ago, and I found a bunch of, because I saw every band in the 80s. I took so many photos, and I found pictures I took at an April Wine show. I was like, oh yeah, I saw April Wine. I took photos and went to the Thrifty and had them developed, or whatever the place was.
Right.
But I can't remember. I think it was a headline show. Because I saw Journey on the Escape tour, and I was trying to remember if like they were opening for Journey or something, but I don't think so. I think the opener for Journey was actually Red Rider, maybe. Like, might be making
that'd be
that
a good
up.
show.
Yeah, Tom Cochran.
Yeah.
I seem to remember.
I had a question from Bent Rossum. Your favorite piece of vintage recording gear you own?
Vintage recording gear. I don't own a lot of vintage recording gear. I mean, you know what's funny is when I think about it, it's like my 6176 from UA is 15 years old now. Is that vintage? But I bought it new.
I was waiting for like the trick response. This telly right in my hand. This is my favorite piece of vintage recording gear.
Yeah, well, guitars, it's another idea. I got a few old guitars and amps and things like that. But if it's got to be, I used to in the 90s, I had a studio with a guy, and we had 4 1073s that were racked, old Neves that were out of an old console, and we had an original U47. So back then, it was a $6,000 mic. I remember going with a pile of cash. The guy's name's Mark Lynette. That's he used to deal old gear, maybe he still does, but he would also, like, we drove to his house, and I remember I made such an impression because I was like early 20s when we went to pick this stuff up, and it was all my roommate. Really, it was his money that we were spending on this stuff, and I just got to use it. But Mark Lynette, anyway, we got there, and he was mixing like a box set for the Beach Boys. So he was at his studio in Glendale, and I remember he had like Beach Boys vocals up soloed in the studio. Like he had the masters there, and he was working on this, and I was like, oh my God, it was so cool. But he had this U47 and 4 Neves that we got from him that day, and that was 15 grand. And I remember driving in a van to go pick up this stuff with 15 grand cash, you know, and I'd never seen 15 grand cash. And I was like, we should just go get on a plane. Let's go to Florida. We could have some fun. Like, forget this recording gear. We could have a lost month. You know, we'd have a hell of a good time. No, but we didn't do that. We went and picked up the gear, and we had a home studio. I lived in Sierra Madre out by Pasadena, and had this house rented. We had a drum kit and an upright piano and a Soundcraft recording desk and a rack, you know, with the Neves racked, and this old U47. And I used to record. That's like one of the places where I learned a bunch about, you know, about doing. If anybody's remembers Kevin Gilbert, who's, you know, kind of maybe lesser known genius that really has the respect of a lot of. He was part of the Tuesday Night Music Club that did the first Sheryl Crow album, and a kind of a genius artist in his own right. Kind of like he was a real fan of like Peter Gabriel and early Genesis and stuff, and he was a lot like that, like in his own writing. Really a creative kind of guy. Played everything. Played guitar. Played piano. Played drums. Amazing studio, Neve console in 2014. This is when he was like 27, 28 years old. You know, he had an old 800 Studer, a real Neve, and like, you know, made a lot of money actually doing film and TV music. He used to score shows like Tales from the Crypt, and you know, nice. I remember he was so he'd make, you know, he was making a couple $100,000 a year, like doing film and television music in the 90s, but he was really an artist, and he really wanted to be known as an artist. So anyway, I became friends with him and his best friend, Robert Ferris, and Robert was my roommate. And that's the guy that I made the little studio with the U47. And the, so nice. That's a long-winded way of saying my favorite piece of recording gear that was vintage that I ever was technically his, but I got to use it all the time, was that old 40. That's where I learned about a 47 on acoustic guitar, to tie it all up with, you know, using something like a U47 on acoustic. That's why the Beatles sound like that. You know? So I used to throw one of these up in the middle and do that, you know, so that's where I learned that kind of stuff.
Nice.
Through the experience.
Bigger Mike Bass. He says, spent last night with Ben and Dave's World of Fun Stuff. Thanks for the rad content, Ben. Question, Ben, what is your bass gear like? Well, I currently have one piece of bass gear, and that would be my bass.
What's your bass?
My bass is an Ibanez RD.
Cool. Let's see the. Yeah.
Kind of an Ernie Ball kind of setup.
Right.
And $80. Why not?
Wow.
Yeah. It was definitely priced to sell. They seem to go for about $300 on Reverb, but he's like, I don't know, give me $80. I'm like, here, you know.
That's
actually
cool.
First thing I said was, are you sure? And he says, yes. And I said, okay. And Ben Rawson says, can Pete do this guitar right here? This is what it is a series of like 1-minute videos that we've been posting on social media that Caleb Rappaport of the Mighty Nerd Halen started. And it's just kind of a basic, you know, just set up your phone and you're just kind of this guitar right here, and you show off a guitar and do a little 30-second minute video talking about the guitar. And we do the hashtag this guitar right here.
Okay.
You know, because there's so much negativity on social media at this time that figured it'd help brighten up people's days.
Definitely. Well, anything, I'm finding that anything that's, you know, pedal demos or live streams like this or whatever, just takes people's mind off all the chaos, you know?
That's
craziness that's going on. It's helpful. Because it feels a little weird in one hand. Like, I was saying on my live stream yesterday, like feels a little weird making guitar videos sometimes to me because I get caught up in the news cycle and stuff like that.
I had a bunch of videos in the can. I shot a bunch at a music store about a little over a month ago. And literally today was the first time I actually did demo videos in a month. I was just doing the live shows each week because I just didn't feel like it.
But you know, the funny thing, I think people like it. Like I'm starting to realize that it's why change because people like it. I don't know. Like I tell you what, when I'm doing the live stream or sitting here doing this, I forget about all that shit. Actually, like I'm completely not in that zone. And then I'm like, oh, and it's like, oh, that's nice to not. It's giving me a needed mental break. And I think people watching it, it's some sense of normalcy and stuff. So I was like, well, maybe I should just keep doing what I always do, like making the videos. And so I think I'm gonna just do more than ever because folks need it. You know, it's like
exactly.
I don't know, like if you're into guitar and that's your escape and stuff, like why would you want guys like us to not? Oh, it's serious times now, and we shouldn't. No. It's like everybody's home, hanging out.
You need that distraction, otherwise you just get in your own head. Yeah,
exactly. So I think it's a good thing to just keep it going. You know.
Preston Smith ask Pete, who would still cause you to fanboy if you met them today?
Oh, any member of a band that I grew up with. So, that was a big, like if I met Dave Gilmour or if I met, I still haven't met Townsend. If I met him, I'd probably fanboy out, so I know Ed Van Halen, but it's like, it's hard to not, you forget, actually, he's a lovely guy. And it's like, when you hang with him for a minute, then it's pretty easy to just kind of forget about, oh, he's Ed Van Halen.
Sure.
You kind of just like talk, and then it's better if you just do, But it's hard to. I guess the older I get, and with all the crazy shit going on in the world and stuff, it's actually the folks that when I meet them that have the most impact on me are not as much musicians, but a little bit more like. I met Obama at the White House. That was amazing. That was like I couldn't talk actually. I didn't know what to say. So not to get political, whether you're a fan or not.
Right.
That was incredible.
I remember the end of my first day at NAMM. I'm standing there talking with Grover Jackson and Floyd Rose, and I went, like, oh my god, but they were kind of talking to each other too.
Yeah.
And then I kind of backed out of that conversation and I turned around and that's when you were in the Friedman booth when we met for the first time. And I kind of went, oh my God, that's Pete Thorn. And you were just standing there like totally by yourself, kind of seeing, who am I going to talk to type thing. And I walked up and I'm like, hi, Pete Thorn. And you went, I like your shirt. And you snapped the photo. And I just went, all pressure was off all of a sudden, and then the next day we talked for a couple of minutes. And then by the third day, I remember we were just passing on the escalator. It was like, hey, Pete, hey, Ben, because we're old friends.
Right. Because then you're at NAMM and it's like, yeah. I mean, I remember like the thing you're talking about Grover and stuff. I mean, I remember, for instance, like going to a movie premiere once because a girlfriend of mine was working on this film. And I went to I got to go to the premiere of the film in Hollywood. And at after the dinner and stuff afterwards, Eric Idle and John Cleese were standing there talking to one another.
Oh, nice.
Like 5 feet from me. And I wanted to be like, I wanted to fanboy out so hard. I wanted, because I was a Monty Python freak, and I was like, I couldn't go over and say hi. I just couldn't. I thought I'm going to interrupt them. They looked like they were having fun talking to one another. And I was just like, I'm going to seem like such an asshole and maybe they're mean or I didn't know what to do, but things like that. So it's anything, I think if you grow up when you're a kid with, I met Ringo. He's the only Beatle I met. And I was a little shell shocked and, that was really cool. But
I think it's more too of when you're a little thrown off, it's like you go to a movie, for instance, you expect to see the cast there. But then when you see like Eric Idle and John Cleese, you're like, oh, holy crap. Okay. And that was last year at Cosmo walking around and I ran into Greg Godovich and had a nice 5-minute chat with Greg Godovich.
Yeah. These folks are, generally speaking, I mean, people are nice, it's like and approachable. And I mean, some people might not be, but it's,
I agree.
Yeah, when you're a kid, it's those people that seemed like larger than life when you were. And of course, things are different now because people are more accessible. So the internet's brought everybody closer together. So I don't know if kids feel the same way now as they. I guess they do. When you see like videos of like young girls freaking out over Billie Eilish or something like that, and they meet her and they lose their minds. I guess it's the same effect. But it seems like that people are. It used to be when you and I grew up. I mean, when I was growing up in the '80s, going to concerts, I guess. It was even more different in the 70s because we grew up, there was MTV and much music in Canada and everything. So there was videos, and that was a big deal. You had to have a video out. So you knew kind of what the artists looked like, both from magazines, but also from television and videos. But imagine what it would have been like in the 60s and 70s when all you had was the record jacket, or maybe you saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan. Right. And that was it. And then all of a sudden the Beatles come to your town. It's like, oh my God. I think that's why it was such a big deal when the Beatles got off the plane in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh my God, they're here. It's because they seemed like to fans, it was like they're this larger than life characters like don't actually exist or something like it. So I remember going to concerts and feeling like when the band would walk out on stage and you'd be like, holy shit, like that's Eddie Van Halen or whatever, like walking on stage, you could see their shadow before the lights came out and, with the guitar, and then the sound would come out. You just be like, I can't believe they're here in Edmonton. In my hometown, they're here, and it was like so powerful. And now I feel like that gets diluted a little bit with maybe not quite the same experience with the internet and with Instagram, and people are in your face all the time, and it seems like everybody's, especially now, it's like everybody's making like little concert videos and filming.
Exactly. Everybody seems so accessible in many ways. Yeah,
and it's great. If you watch like Brian, for instance, Bryan Adams, if we want to talk about like an 80s guy that, his Instagram's awesome. He's always on there, like playing acoustic guitar in his house, doing or cooking or something. And he's showing you, but he's always like right in the camera, like playing some new song he just came up with and showing you feel like the guy practically,
Well, it's funny you bring up Bryan Adams because he got so big, by the mid to late 80s that he was on that Elton John U2 level thing going on. Yeah. That it's almost like the pretty girl on Friday night. He's too big. Nobody's gonna. Why would I even bother contacting Bryan Adams? He's too big. But he's just a regular guy. He's just having fun.
Yeah, he did seem like a like that. He always kind of kept his feet on the ground or whatever.
Right.
Like even though you're right, he was. I forget that sometimes, but it's true.
He I think that's probably because he was a bass brat growing up or something like that. Like he moved around a lot. I think that would have a lot to do with it.
Yeah. Well, and just the kind of the Canadian vibe, like he never lost that.
Right.
I mean, I feel like a lot of guys are like Neil Young and, a lot of the Canadians seem like pretty down to earth, in that way. The Rush guys, it's like,
Islander Winder says here, Pete is the Ryan Reynolds of the guitar YouTube community. Ben is the Willie Nelson. We love you both. Fair? Okay, sure. Take that.
Who else we got here?
My sister says that's the great thing about Canadian artists. They seem to be like accessible. And I think it's because, Canadian music, if you don't break super big, you don't make the millions of dollars and have, like how many 90s Canadian bands, those guys have day jobs now and still go out and play as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's like, it was a different thing for the Canadians for sure. Like, I mean, you think about somebody like Kim Mitchell,
Kim Mitchell was the afternoon drive time DJ on Q107. He may even still be.
Yeah. I think he might still be, and goes out and still plays and stuff. So he's a good example because he got about as big as you could maybe be for Canadian
I caught him. I believe he played at Cosmo last year.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
God, I love him, man.
Because they have the live bands all day during the event too, which is cool.
Okay. God, I'd love to meet him sometime.
Yeah.
I never met him yet. I'd love to do because he has people on his show and stuff like that. Can I go do that sometime? Can I go to Q107 and hang with Kim Mitchell?
Right.
Am I interesting enough? I want to go do that. It's like I don't know. He was so cool, and probably still is, but who was a big Kim Mitchell fan? I think Paul Gilbert. He liked
Oh,
Kim.
really?
Yeah, because Kim was kind of a bit of a shredder for a minute there. Like, he had these good skills on guitar, and Paul knew who he. Isn't that funny? I have a Paul Gilbert Ibanez pick on my desk right now. I just said that.
Nice. I got to meet him at NAMM this year. He says, I don't have time to talk. Can you walk with me? And then I tried walking alongside of him at NAMM. Barely kept up.
Yeah. He's a good dude.
T-Mit says, PT is our ambassador for the guitar community. I agree. Good Canadian boy did good.
Well, I'm still just the same as I always was. Sitting here playing with my guitars.
Yep, exactly. Awesome. Can you believe we've done 2 hours?
That's amazing. Yeah, I can go for a little bit longer. I got to split relatively soon, but let's hang a bit more. Or how long do you usually do your show for?
It depends. Sundays I'll do about 2 hours on average, and because Monday it's usually just me by myself, I usually just do 1 hour. But I thought, you know what? It's a special night. Let's go. Let's do it.
Well, let's hang a bit longer, like another 15 or something, and then we'll get dinner.
I think that's a cool idea.
Okay.
Crowbar asked, do you ever crash at your studio?
I got a couch back there, and I do take naps.
Nothing wrong with a nap.
It's pretty awesome, man.
And again, anyone that's new to the channel, please like, share, and subscribe. Much appreciated. So
definitely
grow all this, and who knows, maybe I'll be at these events that Pete attends as well one day. So baby steps.
Yeah, man. Yeah, the YouTube meetings are really fun.
They are.
They feel, I always say, kind of like being like you're doing a session, like a music session, recording a song, except you're making videos instead. Like where you get a bunch of musicians in a room and everybody's like, I don't know, what if I played something like this? Somebody goes, oh, that's cool. What if I did this on the bass? It's like that, but YouTube.
It's like when I started the channel, I had my best friend as my co-host, and he's like, so what do we do on this live Q&A? And I said, well, you know how when you sit around talking gear that annoys your girlfriend all day? He's like, yeah. It's like, well, we do that, except there's people watching us virtually, and they'll ask us questions too. Okay.
That's it. It's kind of like that. It's like exactly what we're doing here right now. I mean, to give you an example of what happens, like I did a video with Chris Buck.
Right. Great player.
And we just met at Tillman. And I was like, oh man, you're awesome. I love your, I'd stolen that move from him. And so I was like, I just stole this lick from you where you bend and then you slide up a fret and down and do this little stuff. Anyway, and I said, hey, you want to make a video together? We should do something together. And he's like, yeah, sure. I don't know what I'm going to do for the rest of the day. And I was like, well, why don't I grab my camera and let's figure out something? Because we were in Tillman, kind of the main guitar room sort of looks like Cosmo, where it's just like a very big music store. I said, there's nobody in the amp room over there. Why don't we go over and like do like something on practice amps? Like let's just plug in first impression into like a Yamaha THR or a little Marshall MG, like amps under $150 kind of thing, and we'll see what we think, and we'll just put the camera on and just like fly on the wall kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that video, I put that up and it's got really good. It's like 50,000 views or something like that. People like it and it's not like high quality audio or video. The lighting
some of the
kind
best
of sucks.
stuff.
But yeah. It's just, and that's the fun thing is you just see, that's the kind of videos I like to make at those things. It's just,
and me as a viewer, I love collaboration videos. Like that's one of the highlights of a NAMM video is, I'm like, hey, check out the new Ibanez gem, blah, 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 blah. And then you come walking by and you're like, oh, are you recording? Hey, I'm like, hey, Pete, what do you think of it? And you're like, oh yeah, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it's the best. It's the best stuff. You're absolutely right. I mean, we did a live stream with, it was Rick Beato and me sitting at the bar at the hotel after one of the GitCon days in Germany. And we're just sitting there and Rick said, let's talk about, he said, you want to go do a live stream? And I said, sure. So he signed on, he did it. And Rick's got a gajillion followers. So before you knew it, there was like 900 people watching the stream. Right. And he goes, let's talk about underrated guitar players. What do you think? I was like, oh, I don't know, Gary Moore, or something, whatever. And then somebody says, Roy Gallagher, and then it's like, and then Phil X walked in. And he came in behind us, and we ended up both for like an hour just doing this live stream. It was 1,000 people watching. It was awesome. It's probably one of the cooler things we did. Off the cuff live stream. and everybody joining in. And so anyway, it's fun. I agree. The
my number one answer for underrated guitar players always is Ronnie Wood.
You know, I kind of get that. Like, yeah, I mean, like he's really underappreciated, isn't he? Like, I think.
Yeah.
Nobody ever really talks about Ronnie Wood, and yet it's like everybody loves him, you know. But it's like, yeah, it's interesting.
I love Ronnie. My cousin Doug had a question. Are you familiar with Matt Anderson, blues player out of New Brunswick?
I'm not.
Plays mostly acoustic. Large gentleman. That guy cleans up at the Maple Blues Award every year for like the last 10 years.
Really?
Yeah. Definitely. Check out Matt Anderson. You won't be disappointed.
I'll check it out.
All over. Yeah, North America, Europe. A lot of solo acoustic stuff. I saw him play a few times live in concert here locally and was blown away. And what pisses me off is about 2 or 3 years earlier, prior to that, Matt's good friends with friends of the family, and he would always stay at their place. And my dad would always be like, "Oh, I'm going to go hang out with Matt to go jam. You want to come?" I'm like, I don't want to go jam blues music. It's boring. I don't, because I was just into rock, metal, whatever, anything but old school blues on an acoustic. And then I saw him play, and I was just like, God damn it. I could have been jamming with him multiple occasions.
Yeah. I know. Our wasted youth, the things that we didn't do. I've got a lot of those kind of regrets as well. It's like, oh, why don't I spend more time, you know? Yeah.
Lando 27 Music asks, he goes, okay, last question for Pete. Possibly no access to a hairstylist for a few months. Buzz it or grow it?
Grow it out, man. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think we know my answer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you got it made, dude. You don't got to. You'll be fine. I used to have hair like yours.
I got it cut before I went to NAMM last year.
Did you? Wow.
Yeah, and it was down to about here, and I'm like, it's too short. I don't like it.
I had hair about as long as yours at one point. It was 96, and then 97 I cut it off. So from 90 to about 96, I grew my hair out, and it was like it was like full on like Red Hot Chili Peppers in the 90s, full on Anthony Kiedis. Yeah, it was like that long, and then I was just like, okay, this is too much, and I cut it off. And it always feels good when you get rid of it, but then like 5 years later, you're like, I kind of miss it now. You know?
True. So yeah, I like the fact that I just put in a ponytail if I'm going to be, extra nice and fancy.
Right.
Geez, Ben Rossum, you were on it tonight. Hanging at the bar with Pete Thorn and Phil X. He found the live stream and put it in the chat.
Oh, cool. Yeah, it's kind of a fun one to watch. I mean, we just talked about underrated guitar players, but that's awesome. It was
nice.
Yeah, probably on Rick's channel, I guess, right? Yeah.
And Rick's speaking of Canadian boys that did good south of the border, Phil X.
Oh yeah, Phil's and it's not like it was an overnight thing. I mean, he worked hard. Matter of fact, that movie premiere I was talking about, where I saw Eric Idle and John Cleese, right? He was there working with his. So all of a sudden there was confetti coming down at one point from some undisclosed location. I was like, "Where's it?" And I looked up, and I knew Phil because I was playing in a band at the time in LA that sometimes we'd play on the same bill. Right. He had a band called Powder with his wife at the time, and he and his wife were up way high on a balcony throwing confetti down on the people at the party. It was kind of at the end of the party, I think, or whatever, as people were leaving or something. And I saw him and I pointed, and he was working. He had he paid his dues doing different stuff.
I was going to say, I don't know if JJ's House of Jams is still in here. JJ used to work at a catering company with Phil back in the day.
Oh, did he? Yeah. I mean, he's worked hard, and he's a great guitar player, and he's a friend. He's a super nice guy. And that crazy energy and everything, and
crazy. Yeah,
we all want 10% of his energy, right?
I did a similar thing. I met him this year at NAMM, similar to when I met you, because again, because they actually have bars at NAMM, and I do like to imbibe while I'm walking around. I had just enough courage into me. I didn't realize he was headed to the Gibson room to do his performance, so he comes up the escalator with all of his people and stuff, and I went, "Hey, fellow Canuck with guitar, Phil X," and I held out my hand. Shook his hand, held out my hair like this, so he read the shirt. And he's like, "I love the logo," and we got a photo together, which is fan club shared and stuff like that.
Awesome.
But that's my line now. Anytime I see a Canadian at any event, hey, fellow Canuck with guitars.
I remember.
Hey, it works, right?
Definitely. Anybody else in the chat here? Let's see.
Yeah. We still got 114 watching. I think we almost hit 140 at one point, which is insane.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That is good. Peter, you planning on coming back to Edmonton at Stang Guitars again for a Sir Clinic, says Jason Hobbs. I would love to. And it's probably been about long enough, but I would just want to have my clinic at Stang was one of the very first, I think it was the second one I did, maybe. And it was my recording clinic on the reactive load and stuff. And then I kind of modified the clinic a little bit to work with the PT-15. I would have to just do it again. It's been long enough though, and there's folks like you that never saw it, that maybe, because what I'm getting at is I don't know if it would be that different,
right,
than what I did the first time, but it's a little different because I'm kind of focusing on some different gear.
Well, when in doubt, you just put the word revisited at the end of the title.
Oh, there you go. I talk a lot about basically what I wanted to do in a clinic was not shred tracks. Once again, I hate playing, like the concept of playing to a drum machine or whatever, and here's me shredding some tracks off my record. That is not me, and I just couldn't do it. But I get all these questions about recording and about how do I make the songs and stuff that people see me do on YouTube and stuff. So I thought if I could put that in a clinic somehow, and that's part of the evolution of the products with Sir, like things like the PT-15 and the reactive load and things that I help with. So why don't I put that in a clinic and I show how I use these tools to actually make music? So it's a little bit about songwriting and about the gear and all that kind of stuff, and about the tools, and then how you use them. And then I talk about the musical decisions and stuff in the clinic that I make, and I actually track a song in the clinic with all the guitar.
That's where you are probably one of a handful of guys that we can say, you're a touring musician, but you're also a YouTuber. So you can actually blend different facets in a live performance situation like that, or a clinic situation that a lot of other guys can't.
Yeah. And I have a background in, not only that, I have a background in sales because I grew up working in music stores, paying my dues.
Right.
So talking about gear like we do is something I love to do. So like, hey, here's this new pedal, or here's this whatever, explaining things. That's something so I try and put that aspect of it in there too, where I'm not saying I'm trying to sell things. I guess I am in a way, because it's a signature line of products, but that is talking about the gear and explaining how it works and how you use it.
Right.
And then being musical, using it, playing the stuff. And then the end of the clinic, I kind of wrap up with, generally speaking, like, so all you guys in this room know me from YouTube, and that's why you're here. And so let's talk about that and how you use this vehicle that we have these days,
right?
Internet, social media, whatever, to build a career and get yourself to a place where you've got some control and independence over your life, as opposed to always getting hired to work for other people,
And that is some great advice.
Yeah. You can build your thing, whatever it is, teaching lessons, whether you're,
build your brand.
Tubs, or what's that?
Build your brand.
Yeah, build a brand. I guess, I kind of hate the concept of brand, but that's what it is, isn't it? Yeah. It really is. It's like build whatever it is that you do, that you bring to the party. If you can be a little bit different about it than everyone else, and be watchable and be entertaining and be educational and be, bring people some value, now you've got something, and you can do it kind of on your own time, and you're your own boss, and
I agree.
That type of thing. So
Craig Tomlinson has a question here. Have you ever tried any Lawrence Petross design pedals? If so, thoughts on the ones you've tried? Lawrence is a sponsor for Ben. Really nice guy too.
Okay. I got to think here for a minute. Just one sec here. I'm going to look through my little...
I'm going to say maybe, and I only say that because I remember a certain pedal builder asked me for your address, and I did give it out to him because I thought, you know what? Pete might want a free pedal.
You know what? Here he is right here, and
I'm going to write him an email back right now.
Nice.
Because you know how bad I am with
with the fact that it's become a running joke in your live stream the last few weeks. Check your email.
Exactly. And so that's what I'm doing right now. I'm contacting Lawrence because here's his email. Nice. And I'm going to say, I'm so sorry.
Nice.
I'm on live with Ben, and he is scolding me now.
Love it. Bent Rossum has a great question. Let's see here. Where was it? There it is. How important is the hang for an artist on the road type of gig?
Hang?
Yeah, the hang portion.
60% of it.
Yeah. I agree.
I would say the being a good player thing, or not even like a great player, just being a competent musician that can do the job. It should be a given. Like that's like, yes, you have to be able to do that. And then it's anywhere from there to being like a virtuoso or whatever, you know, but you got to be able to do the job. So let's get that out of the way. Now the hang is really what will get you the job or not.
Yeah.
Like you don't even go to the audition if you can't hang in the room with the level of players. Hopefully, I mean, if you're doing an audition in a band, like for, you know, in LA or something, if you've gotten in the room, you're probably decent, you know. Right. If you've made it that far to get to, like, you've moved to LA and you've probably been to MI or Berkeley or whatever, or slagged it out in clubs or whatever you had to do to get to town, and then make the connections to get that audition and get in that room, you can probably play. Right. Okay, so now what's actually going to get you the gig? Yeah. Like the rest of and the hang is like, I remember Jeff, how do you pronounce his last name? Jeff Golub played with Rod Stewart for years. He was a jazz guitar player too, but great guitar player that played with him in the 80s. And I remember his story about getting that gig with Rod was, it's like they jammed a tune or two at an audition, and then Rod said, "You want to go across the street and get a drink?" And he said basically he just wanted to know that I'd go to the pub with them and have a beer, and that it was like cool, you know, that the hang was good. He knew I could play, like,
sure,
you know, and I like that. It was like more about that, and or, you know, some gigs you might get a gig. I use that example of going to the pub. Some gigs you might get a gig because you don't go to the pub because you're a sober guy, and maybe the artist is a sober guy, you know. And like, and when you're like, yeah, I know folks that, you know, that have gigs that it's like everybody's in the program and stuff like that, and that's part of being on that team because it helps. Sure. It's part of that support network, right? So whatever you're into, you know, it's like, and you have to be a part of the like fit in with the vibe, you know.
Exactly, so, I agree on that. And I think we'll go for one more question here. And that was from Nick KB. I just got to find it again. It was, what kind of music are you listening to when you just want to relax or, you know, for fun? Oh, yes. What music do you listen to for fun?
Well, it depends. Like at different times, I've gone through different phases where I've grown, my, you know, appreciation for different kinds of music. And sometimes, you know, I grew up, you know, a lot of guitar music, a lot of rock and roll, and I still love that. And sometimes I just want to crank for those about to rock or whatever, or AC/DC, you know, or Van Halen, or I want to listen to, you know, that kind of like guitar centric stuff. But there's other times where it's like I was listening to nothing but electronic music, or, you know, where it'd be like, or chill out music. I'd be putting on like 07 or Chiba or something, or like, you know, something like that. Or I've been through phases where I went through a big phase where I was discovering like Neil Young and, you know, Joni Mitchell, and like kind of like more like singer-songwriters, acoustic music, and like realizing they were all Canadian. I was listening to all these Canadian musicians for a while. That was kind of like the early 90s. I got kind of out of the whole, because maybe it was the whole like heavy rock or like Sunset Strip thing, or moving to LA, and then it all going away and kind of feeling really stale for a minute. And then like I started discovering like, oh, like this kind of timeless singer-songwriters became really appealing to me. And like a little bit deeper lyrically and stuff like that. And that was when grunge was also happening. I was listening to Soundgarden, Alice in Chains and stuff like that then too. So different phases of, you know, and then you kind of, that never goes away, does it really? It's like you might move away from it for a while. Like, oh, I don't listen to as much Metallica as I used to. But like, I was trying to explain Metallica to somebody the other day, and they were like, "Do you like, what's your deal with Metallica? You like Metallica?" And I went and said, "Well, like this was my jam in this period of my life." And I went and played them, like, you know, Master of Puppets and Justice, or not, and Justice for All. I was playing them, Kill 'Em All, Ride the Lightning, and Master. Right. Because I saw that, you know, I went to see them on the Master of Puppets tour, and I was like, you got to understand, like when this record came out, it was, nobody sounded like that. Like when Master of Puppets came out, it was like this unbelievable no, and Ride the Lightning, nobody sounded like it was the dawn of thrash metal, and nobody had done anything that sounded anything that aggressive ever. And so it was such a, so I was listening to it, and I hadn't listened to it in ages, and really appreciating it and going, God, this was like so, so you might not listen to it for 15 years and then come back to it and you still appreciate it, so you just add on to your levels of,
I agree. All right. I'm going to wrap things up with one question from myself, something I've come across. Growing up in Canada, obviously you're aware of CanCon. We get Canadian bands forced down our throats when they have a hit, good, bad, or otherwise. But I don't know about you, and probably because you've been in the US for so long, but traveling, when you're walking down the street or something, or wherever you are, when you hear a Canadian song playing and you overhear it, for a split second, you're like, oh, good track. And then all of a sudden, I don't know about you, but I always think they don't have to listen to that. You know what I mean? You're like, it's like, it's twice as cool that they're listening to a Honeymoon Suite or.
Yeah. When somebody's aware of, like, because you feel like it. Yeah. What is a big, like Sloan for me was, I kind of missed the boat on Sloan early on because I was already living in LA, but they became this, like, the biggest kind of Canadian indie rock band or something.
Right.
And then I got to tour with them in 99 or so.
Great.
And we did a month of touring with them in a band called Blink of the Star that I was in, and that I toured. I got to tour and guitar player slot with them. It was a great band. But and I became a Sloan fan. And then after that, it was like I'd go see them in LA. It's a little like, Tragically Hip would play in LA or something.
Sure.
Too. Probably play the House of Blues. They sell out 2 nights at any hockey arena in Canada. But in LA, they play the House of Blues or the Troubadour or something. Sloan's like that,
Yeah.
But you get together there and you feel like this is so cool. I'm seeing like Sloan in a club in LA or whatever, and it's like kind of there's a appreciation for, and definitely I love that, but I also just love coming back to Canada. If I was coming back to visit family or whatever, and you're in the car on the way home from the airport and you turn on the radio and April Wine or Honeymoon Suite or something comes on the radio or whatever, and you go, oh God, you feel like it really brings it home more than, flying into the airport and seeing everything, the trees, and it's like, oh, I'm back. But when you hear the rock on the radio and it's distinctly, that really makes you feel like,
exactly.
Like back,
a few people are saying, Sloan played Cosmo Music Fest last year. Yep.
Yes, cool.
Yeah, it was like Sloan, April Wine, Kim Mitchell. It was a great lineup.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love Sloan, man. I mean, love those guys. Talk about an interesting.
I use a lot of Sloan in my gear demos, actually.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I rip off Sloan all the time.
I played.
That's it.
In something recently,
I was watching back a demo I released in the last couple of weeks, and that was the riff I played. Showing the various pickup positions. I think it was on my Jackson demo, and I just played Money City Maniacs. Yeah, thanks, Bethalco.
It's such a great riff, But and I really love the individual writing personalities of that band. I was going to say, like, the interesting thing about that band is that something cool about Sloan that I just got to say, let's just go off for a second about, but they got a deal, as I understand it, they got a deal on Geffen in like around when Nirvana got signed, because they're, cool 4-piece, whatever, like under whatever. And that was, so they got their deal on Geffen, and the first record comes out and it sells like 30,000 copies or something, which is like, if you're an indie band, that's a success. If you're on a major label like Geffen, that's an abject sort of failure or whatever, right? Then they do their second record, it sells like 60,000 copies. So they're building a following, right? But also a failure by Geffen standards or whatever, right? So Sloan goes and gets dropped off the label and manages to negotiate the ownership of both those records back from Geffen. Starts Murder Records, right? And their own record label, indie record label. So starts signing other bands and just continues on and own the records after that, right? And keep selling, right? And it's brilliant because they used Geffen to just, like the bank to this arc for their career, and then just kept going and building and building. And what they would do is each guy for those that don't know Sloan, they would, and they kind of like were really amateur at the beginning, like not like really, you know what I mean? Like in the beginning, they're not like, virtuoso.
Hey, I had their first album.
Yeah. And it's like, they were like super, like kind of lo-fi, kind of like in learning better and better and better and better writers, kind of like the Beatles actually in a way, like, and they are sort of like the Beatles because they would all write and each guy got to contribute to the records. Yep. And maybe one of the things that kept them a band for so long is that, because I know probably they drive each other crazy to some degree and stuff like that, but everybody got their creative outlet in that band. They all got a voice and they all got to play and they all kind of wrote separately, as I understood it. Like, and everybody got their own, it's almost like a bunch of solo artists, but they all play in each other's shit in the same band. Yep. That's the way that I understand. I could be way off, but that's to the best of my knowledge.
And they were one of the last bands I ever saw that traded off instruments during their set.
Yeah, I mean, the drummer comes out and plays keys and sings and whatever, and of course, bass player goes back and plays drums. And Patrick, I really like Patrick's songs. Actually, I love because he's a little bit more the AC/DC rock aspect of the,
and a great Instagram follow, Patrick from Sloan, folks.
Yeah. He's rad, and he's a sweet guy too. I haven't seen him in years, but he was kind of
Halifax boys.
That's right. Yeah, Halifax guys. Yeah, and just really, I don't know. I'm just a big fan of how they brilliantly the arc to their career and are still a band after all this time, and it's 30 years on now. And
they still play around here usually once a year.
It's great. It's cool. I mean, if you can do that, like, King's X is like another one that, like, they just keep on. I'm actually, I think I get to do an interview with Ty this week from King's X.
Oh, and, cool.
I'm going to record it this style, but it won't be a live thing, and ask him some questions and stuff. Just remembering, well, that's cool. Live Money City Maniacs, live in Vancouver, 2015. I got to see that. Absolute
Thanks, Mayhem.
I'm gonna look that up after, because I want some Sloan right now, but it's good stuff.
Yeah.
And they're not anyone, you'll see that song, you go, wow, this is cool rock and roll. But then when you see, Andrew's songs, or like what, it's different.
Yeah, my sister just mentioned Coax Me, which is almost like a bare naked lady song.
Right. They're like the Beatles. I mean, they've got that amount of variety to their, they're like a really.
I think I covered Coax Me for a while in my last band.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's much cool. To the chagrin of our bass player, who spent some time in Halifax, and he's like, if word gets out I'm playing a Sloan song, I'm done. My punk cred is done, or something like that.
I love them, man. I think they're great.
I
think they're really cool. I remember one night in Toronto, maybe 8 years ago or 10 years ago or something like that, that I got Patrick and do you know Mike from Our Lady, was guitar player in Our Lady Peace? Yeah, Turner. And they both came, because I was friends with them independently, but they both came out to, I was at like it's a club in Toronto. It's that Country Bar in Toronto, I think.
Oh, the Horseshoe.
No, the other one. I'm trying to remember. Anyway, I can't remember the name of it. I think but anyways, doesn't matter. But they both came, and they didn't know one another. They'd never met. And I thought that was interesting. I thought, oh, that could just be like different musicals. Like maybe Our Lady Peace and Sloan was just like different enough that they had never, they weren't in the same.
Well, I think it's because, like you said, Sloan was so DIY, and Our Lady Peace had that corporate push right off the bat. So they're probably like, damn you, Our Lady Peace, we're stuck in the Port Econoline in Lethbridge,
Maybe. And I wondered kind of in my head, I was like, oh, is there a little bit of like, maybe there's a little bit of like indie rock snobbery, like maybe like that's not cool to like, I didn't know if like that's why they had him met or whatever, but maybe not. I'm just making that up. But I remember like playing with Cornell like in 2009. I remember one night Kim Thale came out to a show in Seattle, and he brought Chris DeGarmo.
Oh, nice.
From Queensryche.
Right.
And I was like, you guys hang out? Like that's interesting to me, that they were like buds. They were like Chris and, and so it's like, well.
Are you familiar with the band, the Trans Canada Highwaymen?
I've heard of them, but I don't know.
All right. So it's Mo Berg from The Pursuit of Happiness.
Oh, cool. I didn't
Chris
even know
Murphy from Sloan.
Okay.
Let me think. Oh, Jesus. One of the guys from The Odds. The guitar player.
Oh, no shit. Why don't I know this band? I love The Odds. Oh,
and Stephen Page as well.
Okay.
So it's like a super group of 90s Canadian alternative all in one band. And they, so they'll play 2 or 3 Bare Naked Ladies songs, a couple Sloan songs. A couple of
The
Pursuit of
odds,
Happiness
man.
songs.
That Nest odds record was hands down one of my favorites of the 90s. What's the band called again?
The Trans Canada Highwaymen.
Okay, I'm gonna check it out. I love who's the guy from the odds? What's that? Craig Northey, right?
Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, Craig Northey. He was great.
And Craig, my God, like you listen to the odds, great band. Don't get me wrong, but he's been putting up videos and he's just shredding. And
Oh, really?
Like, won't hear that in an odd song.
Really? How interesting. God, they were okay. Yeah. Chris Murphy introduces a new super group. This is awesome. This is great.
Yeah.
This is some deep Canadian stuff. Well, this has been good. We should probably wrap it up, right? But I mean, I've learned a lot here.
It's only been 2.5 hours, Pete.
Mo Berg.
Yeah.
Man.
Mo's great. I got to see the Pursuit of Happiness. Typical. I'm hanging out on Princess Street in Kingston, Ontario, and the two main bars in town. One has on the marquee live DJ, $7 cover. The other place has live band, $5 cover. So we're like, hey, $2, that's half a beer. So we go to see the live band, and it's the Pursuit of Happiness playing.
Oh my God.
And this is like in 94, 95. Like they had already had hits on the radio and stuff, and they're playing a club gig because Chris Abbott from the band, she's from Kingston, and they were playing AJ's Hangar, this bar in Kingston.
That's incredible. Great. I thought Mo was maybe from St. Albert. Like, isn't it
I was going to say he claims Edmonton.
Yeah, like I think maybe just
St. Albert.
I heard. Well, that's like just north of it. It's like a bedroom community. But yeah, so that's really interesting. God, I love that band, man. They were great. I can't write songs about girls anymore. Now I need to write songs about women. I love that. Because I'm an adult now.
Great song.
I'm gonna go check out their super group.
Definitely do that. Well, we're at about 2.5 hours in. Do you have, I'm going to say before we started this hangout, I will legitimately say without bragging, we were acquaintances. Now I'm going to say we are actually friends.
Yes, sir.
Do you have anything to add, my good man?
No, not at all. And it's great. I don't get enough tang time with the Canadians these days. So thanks for this. It was really, really fun. And I feel like, something neat about Canadians is that we, I always feel a bit of an instant rapport because I've spent so much time down here now. But when I get together with Canadians, we have so much, I don't know, there's just like an easiness to it.
Well, honestly, dude, I think I can speak on behalf of, I know like all my buddies I talk to, we're all like, yeah, look at Pete go, because you're one of us. You went to LA, you did it. You're out there, you're playing gigs, slinging tone. What can I say? Thanks,
man. Yeah, I mean, it was, and I never, it'll always be home, when I come back there, I always feel that thing. Sometimes I feel guilty about it, to be honest. It's like that who knows? Maybe I'll be back someday. I don't know. I'm Canadian.
Everybody, but that was the deal, especially at that time. If you wanted to do anything, you had to leave Canada.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I felt. I felt like I just couldn't figure out, like I wanted to go big and I love America and I love, and it's difficult times here right now because the country's in such a upheaval, I feel like, and it's been tough with a lot of, it's torn apart and ideologically and all that stuff. And it's a little bit heartbreaking because to see that, because as if it was the 80s or 90s in Canada, how Canadians are about America. They're always like, oh God, like you roll your eyes a little bit about some of the stuff about America. But everybody secretly kind of like admires it and like wants, you know what I mean? Yeah. And that's the way I've always said, like, you got to go there to like really go big. So it was like, but yet we kind of roll our eyes at some of the, so it's like, but we secretly really, really admired it. I feel like, so it was like, that's a little bit of what's heartbreaking about the tough sort of vibe here right now or something like that. So we just hope it comes back together and that people are nicer to one another.
I agree.
You know what I mean? That we could get that spirit back.
Can't we all just get along?
Can't we all just get along? And maybe that's what I love about Canada is that it's just tough times everywhere in the world. But
we try.
Yeah. Canada's a great place that way. So, Lawrence just hit me back. He said, no worries. I know you're a busy guy. Ben's a great guy.
Oh.
So, and he said, I don't think the scolding's necessary.
Anyway. I'm sure I'll get a text either later tonight or tomorrow morning.
Yeah. definitely. I'll
Yeah,
write him back. Right.
Lawrence and I talk most days, so it's all
Good.
Yeah.
Well,
All
let's
right,
do this again sometime, and you take care. And
yeah, so if you just want to hold the line here, I'll wrap things up. So
okay,
definitely, I want to thank everybody that tuned in, especially you folks that have been here right from the beginning to the end. And don't think I forgot, the Patreons also support the Canucks With Guitars show. So, and at the end of the show, I'm not playing my usual song at the end of the show, but I do want to shout out Randy Crooks, Grumpy Mike, Todd Flowers, No Cover Charge, Craig Tomlinson, I Am Happy, Fruitcake Tony, Blackjack Guitar Nut, Riff Magos, Ivan Carter, Tom Harhai, Upside Down, Jose Benito Jr. Thank you all for your patronage and support. Please, if you are interested, support patreon.com for as little as $1 a month. And thanks, Pete Thorn. Thanks, everybody that liked, shared, and subscribed. And until next time, I'm Ben. Hold those doors open. Let that guy in ahead of you in traffic. Do good things, and good things will happen to you. Karma's real. I'm living the dream. Pete's living the dream. I hope you are too, and be good to each other, folks. Cheers and rock on.
take care, y'all.